What's your story? What's your sign? It's like we're twin flames in a different life. Deep connection lights a spark. It's like you know me in the depths of my heart. We're dreamers. Don't care what other people say. We live it like this could be our final day. We're dreamers. Don't care what the others say. We're doing this in our own way. We come alive in the nighttime. It's something about how we dance in the moonlight. That look in your eyes, it tells me that you want me and all my loving. We come alive in the nighttime. You and I, we come alive. We come alive. We come alive. What's your weakness? What's your type? Somehow I wanna know all about you. Deep connection lights a spark. You already know me when we dance in the dark. We're dreamers. We live it. We're dreamers. We're doing this in our own way. We come alive in the nighttime. It's something about how we dance in the moonlight. That look in your eyes, it tells me that you want me and all my loving. We come alive in the nighttime. You and I, we come alive. Oh, we come alive. We come alive. We come alive. Tell me that you want me. I can see you want me by the look in your eyes. Tell me that you want me. I can see you want me by the look in your eyes. We come alive. We come alive. We come alive in the nighttime. It's something about how we dance in the moonlight. That look in your eyes, it tells me that you want me and all my loving. We come alive in the nighttime. You and I, we come alive. Oh, we come alive. We come alive. We come alive.
She was in love with a boy, in love with a girl, so in love with the world, so beautiful. She was in love with the night, the way the sun shines. All she needed was love to have to hold, and nobody could make her feel down. She was always smiling from ear to ear, and everybody wondered if round. Will she ever know the feeling of tears? All she said to them was live your life just like you're young again. No, don't you cry, just get back up again. 'Cause if you want a life to live it, babe.
And it's Championship Sunday. You know what that means? We are going to crown someone number one in our third weekly qualifier here at RoyaleMSTRS. Hello and welcome. I'm Rich Slayton. That's Andrew Guy. And this is a phenomenal tournament with some of the best players. A fully open tournament that you can still compete in. But right now we have 16 of the best from this weekend competing for that top prize of $2,400.
Being whittled down from over 500 players just to 16, the consensus top 1 and 2 players are in the world, are in this tournament, are going to be competing today. And I think we're even going to start off with a fun best of 3 with Muhammad Light going up against Assaf. We'll get that we'll get there in just 1 minute. But let's talk a little bit about our format and how we got here. You heard that there was over 500 people involved in Royale Masters, and that's right, Rich. Yes, you, anyone can compete. We have our last chance qualifier coming up in a couple weeks. It's always a 2-day competition. Day 1 is a Swiss bracket. It's broken up into 4 groups. There's 7 rounds per group, and the top 4 from each group advance to Day 2, which is how we get to the 16 players on Day 2. But this day is single elimination. That's right, 1 chance, 1 life, 1 opportunity to get to the top. And then there will be a 3rd place game to crown that 3rd place spot because it gets just a little bit more money. And talking about money, you mentioned $2,400 to our top spot, over $5,000 on the weekend, $25,000 for this whole competition, man.
Yeah, it's absolutely wild. The opportunities, of course, in competitive Clash Royale are great right now. As you can see, though, today, we're giving away $5,000, $2,400 to first place. Second place takes home $1,200, $500 to third, $300 to fourth, and 5th through 8th do walk away with $150. But if you get knocked out, Andrew, in the first round of that elimination, that single elimination bracket, you walk away empty-handed after all of this gameplay.
Oh, and that always is rough because going through 7 rounds yesterday, we had a couple undefeated players that showed how strong they were from top to bottom, no matter who they saw in that group stage or I guess in that Swiss bracket. But like you said, man, 1 loss and you are out. So the analysis comes in tenfold today, and that was something we had the pleasure of talking about in the chat yesterday. Julesy showed up, who is known as one of the best analysts in the world, kind of talking about matchups that we saw. And with our format, matchups are huge.
Yeah, this is a little change here on the dual mode format for those of you joining us for the first time. This is similar to the dual modes that you'll see in CRL or Clan Wars 2, but the big difference here is the only time you get cards knocked out of your deck pool is if you win with that deck. So if you play, for example, 2.6 in game number 1 and you win, for the rest of the match, no Hog, no Fireball, no Musketeer. But if you lose that game, you can run any of those cards back or those exact same 8 cards back in game 2 to try to play them one more time.
And it feels like Fireball is just a card you need all the time in the current meta, and if you don't have Fireball, you really need to figure out a way to get on top of those pesky units like the Mother Witch, like the Magic Archer, and most importantly, the Flying Machine as of late. Let's take a look at our bracket and the 16 players that made their way through to today.
And of course, this is an unbelievable lineup. 6 out of our 16 players are either qualified directly for Clash Royale League World Finals, or they are in the last chance qualifiers. And we're going to kick things off with a great matchup. Maybe a bit of a grudge match here. Mohamed Light, of course, should need no introduction here. #1 in the world. Assaf, though, in August of this year, was making a push for #1 on ladder. He finished #2 to the guy he's facing right now. So a chance for sweet revenge for Assaf, who's going to be on the bottom of your screen. There we go. Now's the name change.
That's right, and Assaf is rocking the Goblin Drill. He's known as being, arguably the best Goblin Drill player out there. We know he's one of the few guys we saw run it yesterday. He had great success with it, and he's just so good with this cycle, and that's what it's all about with the drill. Get as many drills on tower as possible, and then usually, if you have Fireball, cycle those Fireballs.
You know, we saw a little bit more drill yesterday than I anticipated, both with this deck and also just straight up drill cycle with Tesla as opposed to the drill wall breakers deck. So, you know, maybe we're seeing a bit of a resurgence despite the previous nerf to Goblin Drill, and we'll see if Assaf can make that case right here against Mohamed Light, who's running pretty standard central meta variation of Royal Giant.
Yeah, I like the call here by Mohamed Light, maybe not knowing what Assaf was going to go with. This deck is just so strong all the way around. It's incredibly well-rounded. And yeah, when you talk about this deck with the Goblin Drill in the Americas, I guess that's how I'm going to say it, but here in the States with the competition that we've always been calling here, whether it's CRL West, CRL East, or we have always over-adjusted to cards being nerfed, it seems, in this current meta. It's the Goblin Drill, right? It was everywhere just a couple months ago, and now we're finally seeing it pop up again in competitive, and it's been pretty strong, so I'm happy with it.
Interesting timing there with the log, does not get the damage off, and there you go, nice fireball here for Assaf. One piggy doesn't get touched, but still the lead right now held by Mohamed Light, 1402 to 1908, as the Egyptian sets up with Royal Giant into his weak-hand side.
Yeah, he's got a lot of great responses to that drill. He has the Royal Ghost to set the line up high, and then, of course, that Royal Giant coming down the lane will do work on the Goblin Drill, and then Log. Log is always a nice way to clean those Goblins off the board, but Wall Breakers connecting on the opposite side mean even towers, which might make it a little harder for Mo Light as he drops that second RG.
This is going to be brutal for Assaf as well, though. That King Tower activation certainly not what he was going for. Not sure what happened there, if that was simply a misclick or maybe it was the displacement by the Royal Giant hitting that space at the same time. Very interesting interaction to see, and now you have 460 on the right-hand side. This should be a done deal for Mo in game number 1.
Yeah, and that's just the cleanest of defenses right there. That's exactly what you got to do when you're going up against wall breakers. You have to use that Spirit plus Log when they're behind something like a Valkyrie. Mo does it perfectly. Very little damage coming in on either side of the board, and pretty much a Gone Tower in the bottom right with an RG plus Fireball combo.
Yeah, I don't even know if Assaf, he's going to hold on here. I don't know if he has any real methodology for creating enough damage, especially now with that King Tower activation. It's going to help him with the timing for the Log, and Mo can just wipe that off. And look at that, double value, triple value for 1 Log.
Just beautiful there. Mother Witch is up high. She's going to get taken off the board, but it's really just kind of about getting a little bit of damage in, slowing stuff down, as you said, man, to get that perfect value Log in. Massive value there. Drill maybe behind to turn the Royal Ghost around, or Royal Giant around, but no, it goes all the way to the tower.
No, and it's interesting because Tesla Drill for a while seemed like a complete hard counter to Royal Giant, but a couple of things to note here is that Assaf is running neither Log nor Tornado. So 2 key pieces to making this hard counter Royal Giant, not in this variation.
Yeah, he just can't keep that RG off the tower. He's having so much trouble with it. Now Mo happy to just Fireball Log cycle his way through the rest of this game.
Drill to the right-hand side, wall breakers to the left. It is distracting the King Tower, but not going to get a connection as the Mega Minion goes to work. Log Fireball, GG, well played. Mo takes game number 1 here of our Championship Sunday.
Yeah, I mean, just knowing that matchup through and through was Mohamed Light, knowing exactly what he needed to have in cycle to deal with any wall breakers push, whether they were on their own, whether they had a tank behind with the Drill or a tank in front with the Valkyrie, and then, of course, having that Fireball plus Royal Giant combo on the right-hand side. It was really just that one push where he just needed to have 10 Elixir for offense because he had such nice defense, efficient defense on the other side of the board.
Yeah, very, very tough outing here for Assaf in game number 1. Now, of course, Mohamed Light, because he won that game in this variation of dual mode, can no longer play Royal Giant, Mother Witch, Royal Ghost. The cards you saw in that deck are all gone, but Assaf still has the entire Clash Royale deck pool to pull from, as he was the loser in game number 1. So we'll see what kind of choices he might make here in game number 2. And one thing to consider here is what's off the board on the side of on the side of Mohamed Light. Specifically, Fisherman being gone creates some good options for him. Mother Witch being gone creates some good options. Log being gone, so lots of key central meta cards here that are cards you tend to play around off the board for Mo here after game 1.
Yeah, Log, Fireball out, Mother Witch out, and as you said, Fisherman all gone. So a lot of opportunities here for Assaf if he wants to go bait, but that does seem like the first layer of what you would do, right? If Fireball and Log are out, then the first thought you go to is bait. We know with Julesy out there, we know with the level of competition here, you're going to have to go at least 2 or 3 layers deeper than that. So I'm very curious to see what Mo goes to. The first thing that I would think, looking at what he's played, since he is so firmly in the meta with deck 1, maybe he just does it again in game number 2, and he uses Lava, Miner, Guards, Arrows, things like that. They're all still available. He can still play Cage to have good control of the ground. I think that's maybe the way he goes here, and I don't think he'll even care if Assaf sees it coming because he is so strong with that deck, but I would love to see a hard air counter out of Assaf.
You know, we've been seeing a lot of the Inferno Tower get worked in lately, and with how much we've seen Mo going to Lava Hound as of late, it does feel like maybe a variation. I don't know if there's a variation of this deck that works with Inferno Tower. It might seem that it slows the cycle down a bit too much, but something quick with Inferno Tower mixed in seems like it would make sense here for Assaf.
Yeah, I actually really like that call. I mean, he could even just swap the Tesla out for the Inferno and then maybe drop the Valkyrie down to a Knight. I mean, it would be really rough if then Mo went to Royal Hogs. But I don't know if that's what he's going to do, knowing that his opponent still has Fireball in hand, knowing that he can still play Log, knowing that Bomber is usually in Drill decks, which Assaf favors. So a lot of things up in the air there. Yeah, man, I don't know. I do like the Inferno calls. We have seen just a little bit more Inferno Tower as of late, and still a good amount of Inferno Dragon, but yesterday Inferno Tower was very strong.
Well, it's one of those things that I like about dual mode, right, is that there are certain cards that just aren't really in the meta for ladder because you have better options when you have everything everything available to you and you don't know what you're up against. But with that bit of information, there are really good opportunities for a card like Inferno Tower, which gets less gameplay, to get mixed in competitively. And a lot of it comes back to the one thing we talk about all the time, and that's analysis.
The other thing that Mohamed Light could do here is go minor Tesla cycle in game number 2 and then go to Hog EQ in game number 3. He won't have log there, but he might swap it out for arrows. He could even use Barb Barrel. Not quite as popular because it can't help you around the tower, but I feel like that's maybe the way Mo wants to go, is maybe 1 to lava, 1 to quick cycle EQ. But obviously, if I'm thinking that, Assaf might be thinking that, and maybe he just gives us a full swerve. I just don't know if he really has to. That's the thing, is when you're the best in the world, do you really have to get that creative, or can you just play because you're better?
Yeah, it's a hard question. Hog EQ is an interesting one in this case because he did already burn log, right? Yeah. So there are Hog EQ variants that don't run log, but it seems like all the best ones take advantage of that ability to cycle so much damage for 5 elixir. So, that's one of the fun things, and especially the planning side with the Royale Masters version of it, where Assaf has everything available to him. He gets to plan around those 8 cards, and but with everything in his tool belt. So I look at that one. Hog EQ is one of those ones where the reason why I wouldn't think of Mohamed would use it is because I think he prefers the more aggressive variant with log. Seeing him play it very defensively seems less like his play style for that deck specifically. Yeah. But of course, one person we might see to that later is going to, of course, be Ian.
Yeah, it is really tough to play it without log. I mean, you can swap in arrows, but then you have 2 spells that are costing just a little bit more, which slows the cycle down, which is really kind of handicapping what's so great about that deck. So as we were waiting to hop into game number 2, just remember, guys, these are on-the-fly deck adjustments. That's why sometimes we are taking our time between, because, they have to go back to the drawing board, and here we go. Assaf probably taking his time figuring out exactly what he wants to run against Mo, and maybe Mo decides to go with Hog EQ cycle with Snowball instead of log.
Not impossible, and Snowball certainly a fine option here. And you might be right on the line here. EQ in, Snowball in, and it's Assaf going Lava Hound as opposed to Mohamed Light.
And wow, look at that Bomber behind. That's an interesting push here. Bomber plus Hog plus Fire Spirit. Fire Spirit tanks for the Bomber, and then the Flying Machine sneaks in front of the Lava here, and that is a horrible start for Assaf.
Oh boy, I mean, he's going to load up here, but I don't think he's able to get much out of this load up. Plenty of elixir here, and Valk plus Tesla, yeah, this is just absolutely brutal. And Andrew, we were talking about what could it be Hog EQ? He had log out, and Mo went with a different variation, put the Snowball in, and obviously we're going to like Snowball a whole lot better against a lava deck than a log, so GG well played for Mohamed Light and Julesy.
Yeah, I'm sure they're very, very happy about this call. Game already feels sewn up, as Assaf's going to have a really difficult time because he's going to have to keep going in that right-hand side. But this is an interesting thing about the deck that Mo's playing is, he does have very strong defensive capabilities, and maybe he just defends, but he also can go for the 3 crown with only 3k remaining. A Valkyrie plus Hog together, that's deadly.
I'm very curious about Assaf's choice there. I guess he didn't want to give up lava up again with the with single elixir, and a Hog can go the opposite lane, but it does feel like he gave up a pretty significant elixir advantage there. He's leaked 11.5. That felt like it was maybe 4 or 5 that he just let go.
Yeah, I think having a really difficult time making up his mind, and someone here in the chat talking about how the matchup is 80-20 in favor of lava, which does make sense here because when you look at this deck, usually you have Firecracker, which is your only real assistance to going in the skies. The fact that Mohamed Light has nothing to attack the air other than a Fire Spirit and a Tesla does make this matchup incredibly difficult as he drops that right-hand tower.
And look, the situation we're in right now, yes, there's a ton of damage on Assaf's tower, but he also has a great opportunity to take a full 3 crown here. As long as he doesn't get 3 crown on his side of it, he can be okay.
Mo's going to get 3 crown right now. There you go. Inferno Dragon does get reset. That was a great reset by Mo, but he is in trouble here.
And that Hog almost hit there. That would have been down to nearly 300. And this has been a wild back and forth game. And Assaf had the good matchup, nearly through, went down early on a miscalculation, and Assaf comes back, and now we're going to go to game number 3. What a wild game 2 that was.
That's really the only way to put it, man. That was just straight up bonkers. You talk about the horrible misplay in the beginning by Assaf, the fact that if he took a minute to sit back, maybe that's what he was doing when he was burning through that elixir, was just going, wait, what is this matchup? He has nothing. He has nothing to attack anything in the skies. Swapping the Bomber out for the Firecracker, crazy move there. Ended up looking great for the first few moments, and then, wow, here we are, 3 crown a minute later.
Well, it's one of those things where you understand why Mo had to put pressure into that opposite lane to prevent the lava buildup. You know, it didn't look like he was able to do the same. Look, the first defense, that first exchange, that right-hand tower still got down to like about 1,200 HP. So he knew that it was unlikely he could completely shut down another push. Given the cards that he had in hand, he had to pressure, but it's a question of how much do you pressure and when do you pressure, and just wasn't quite able to sneak on past.
Yeah, because we saw him go for the King Tower there. He set up a hog with a bomber really far behind, and I think just Skeleton Dragons came out to defend that, which was a really tough moment for Mo Light, right? Because I think what he could have done in that moment is throw a Valkyrie in front of that hog, then we get Valkyrie hog plus bomber later, and then maybe then we see Assaf have to commit more elixir to not getting 3-crowned. Just really difficult then, because then if Mo does not 3-crown, then he has nothing to deal with the barbs, and he already needs to save the Skellies and the Fire Spirit to distract that Inferno Dragon, along with the Snowball. So it was really, really tough decision-making there, I think, on both sides of the board for a moment, but then Assaf, with a really favorable matchup, just kind of dominated it.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of those things you talk about matchup, and we saw the value of it right there. It's one of those things you can mess up, and when an exchange like that early exchange where the Fire Spirit tanked the Flying Machine, and then the Flying Machine went off on its lonesome, if that Flying Machine stays there on top of everything, we don't have any of this conversation. That push gets shut down pretty easily. They come out of that first exchange relatively even in damage, and then from there on it's just Assaf with a downhill push. But man, that made it interesting, and at the very minimum, that's what Mo can do even in a bad matchup.
I'm really curious as to why Mo decided to change up the deck as much as he did. Now, obviously, the Snowball coming in for Log makes a lot of sense, but not having Firecracker in there with how popular Lava Hound is in the meta, it just seems, I mean, obviously hindsight's 2020, and we were praising him just a moment ago for making it work, but it didn't work out when the game ended, and it feels like the biggest part was not having that Firecracker, which already puts you in a tough matchup when you're talking about Hog EQ with Firecracker against that Lava Guards deck. So, you know, really interesting stuff there, but, you know, I love it. We're going to game number 3.
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, my guess is twofold here. One is maybe he wasn't putting him on Lava and was putting him on something else that Balloon would work well against, or that Snowball would work well against, like Balloon. But also, I'm wondering if he was putting him on the possibility of going with Royal Hogs, which does make that Bomber a lot more of a viable ground defense option than if he was going up against something in the air, so with Firecracker. So, you know, I think that maybe that was the combination, hoping that the Snowball could offset the loss of Firecracker, and then betting on being against Royal Hogs. But, you know, who knows? Well, maybe Julesy will pop in here at some point after the match is over and give us his insight into that round 2 pick. But for now, we have round number 3 coming. So Mo running back EQ one more time, and it's Assaf going minor wall breakers.
Yeah, and Mohamed Light running a very interesting minor cycle deck here with Tesla and Earthquake. You know, a lot of times when we see buildings with Earthquake, you got to think it's going to be Royal Hogs or Hog Rider. But right now, this deck looking a little interesting. Not exactly sure. And a quick catch up here on what we've been missing here in round number 1. Looks like Haciel was able to beat Neverable. Assad and Wero are tied 1-1. Awesome MK eliminates Air Surfer. Lord Stanleyan eliminates BB-8. Seahawk beats Legend Gamer. Lucas defeats Ian. And Furkan was defeated by Vinicius 2-1.
Wow, awesome MK. Big feather in his cap there for beating Air Surfer in this first round. And now Wero and Assad's going to be a big one too. But right now we're in front of Assaf and Mohamed Light. A bit of a blood match here after that August 2021 ladder exchange. We'll see who comes out on top. But right now, Tesla's on both sides here. Snowball again for Mo. And this will be a quick cycle battle.
Yeah, a really fascinating deck here out of Mohamed Light, going like minor poison control, but without poison. He decides to throw Earthquake in instead. And really, that's what he's going to rely on, is his damage from Earthquake and minor cycles. And right now, behind by about 700 HP, having a lot of trouble when you consider the fact that his opponent has poison, minor, and wall breakers.
Yeah, that's a whole lot. And man, I understand Mo going for just a minor control deck, but it feels like this one, just trying to get minor past this much, ends up being a pretty rough matchup for the Egyptian.
For sure, and then the Mother Witch just gets so much value, man, on top of the Skellies, the Fire Spirit, and even the Bomber, and another wall breaker connection it looked like on that right-hand side.
Yeah, that's a rough one, too. And it touches that Tesla, but Tesla's a little bit too close. Good damage here, though, from Mo in both lanes. 1908 on the right-hand side, 1352 on the left, so Mo's certainly down, but not out. Poison now, and the Valkyrie not picking up those 2 shots from the minor. Pretty important here.
And this is a nice push by Mo. Just needed one more hit there from the bomber with the Earthquake, would have taken that Mother Witch out of play. Luckily, she walks past that Miner. And we're in a very, very close game as Mo kind of does what he loves to do late game, which is just set up Teslas defensively in his weaker lane.
And Assaf is dropping just a half step late here, and he's not double dropping. He might have to start doing so. He does have 4 on the board, but he's a little bit behind on Elixir overall. And as you see, he's now 20 behind on damage, so has to get that Poison and Minor Cycle. And that's a great snowball there that still gives up 1 shot from Mo.
Ticks down to 438 to 650 here, and we'll see how heavy Mohamed Light wants to go in. Cycles the Miner late after the Bomber. Neither one going to get on tower, it looks like.
428 now down to 380. One Minor Swing does come in, so here we go. Final minute and a half, 90 seconds left, and an easy pickup there by Mohamed Light. And that Poison costing a bit more is going to be a real issue here, and I don't think Assaf wants to use Snowball offensively, given the danger you'll see coming in here at the bridge.
Miner does get two hits on tower there with the Snowball coming in. Spear Goblin's at the bridge. I think Mohamed Light is actually going to outcycle him and take this, Rich.
This is Assaf. This is it. He catches or he's done. He does catch, but the EQ should be in here very, very quickly, and that's going to be a GG. Well played. Mohamed Light cycles his way to victory. Brilliant matchup back and forth, but in the end, the man who miners more gets the win, and Mo was the one who got it done.
Yeah, that cycle was just so dirty, and then his ability to defend on the other side. I mean, that's one of my favorite things about watching Mohamed Light late game with Tesla. You know, we were talking about it yesterday, and we saw people in the chat asking why we keep talking about Mohamed Light playing Tesla. It's because you saw it was all over the board. It was in the center of the map when he needed to be. He knew when to min-max and take a bunch of damage. And then we talk about late game. He's always happy to set up his Tesla right next to his weakest Princess Tower so that his opponent has to overspend to get any damage in. And wow, I can't believe he caught up to wall breaker damage with Minor Earthquake.
Yeah, I mean, but that's the power of Earthquake, right? And if you're not, you're not using Earthquake on defense, and there were a few times where, you talk about the offensive cycle, your Minor Poison versus Minor Earthquake, and you saw that Mo was able to vary up getting that snowball both on defense and offense, whereas it seemed like because of the danger of the danger at the bridge with that Fire Spirit in particular, kept on having to use that. The Fire Spirit, I think there were some spears there as well. You saw that Assaf kept having to use that snowball defensively and couldn't add it to the offensive output at all. And at that point, you're just behind the 8-ball.
Yeah, that snowball really was kind of the it factor for Mohamed Light, being able to get it on tower every single time, get that little bit of damage in from the snowball, and then obviously slow that defensive unit down, get the Miner on. And so we are basically through round number 1. Yes, sir, we are. We are down to 8. It's going to be Wero and Haciel. Awesome MK going up against Mohamed Light. Lord Stanleyan still remains undefeated. He'll be going up against Seahawk. And then our 4th and final matchup down there at the bottom, CMG's Lucas going up against Vinicius. So our number 1 and number 2 still alive.
And we're going to see all 4 of these matches, folks. So don't worry if you missed someone from round 1. Well, they didn't make it through this elimination bracket, but we will see all 4 of these quarterfinal matchups. It's going to be a whole lot of fun. Now, I do see some questions in the chat. I saw Mr. Nugget here asking, what are the stakes of these battles? Well, not only there are 2 things on the line here for this weekend. Number 1, the $5,000 prize pool. All of these players have made it to at least $150 in prizes, but the grand prize for this weekend is $2,400. So every win here at this stage takes you from $150 to $300 to potentially $2,400. And of course, there's also points for our grand final, our grand championship, which will be a few weeks from now, and that has a $10,000 prize pool. So money and points on the line today.
And the last thing to mention is that you can still join in on the competition. Obviously not this weekend's competition, as we're already down to 8, but in a couple weeks we have our last chance qualifier. 2 weeks from today, starting I guess on Saturday, is the last opportunity to get in the finals for Royale Masters. So go follow Royale Masters on Twitter, go to find the Discord from there, make sure you're subscribed on YouTube and here on Twitch, because we love to see you guys in the Twitch chat. That's the best way. Just get yourself immersed in the Royale Masters community and you'll figure out how to sign up and get in on the competition. There is one last opportunity, and like we just said, $10,000 on the line in that grand finals just a couple weeks from now.
And if you're watching on Twitch in the chat right now, I just hit Command Discord, so that gives you the link directly to that Discord server where you can find all the important information. And I see people asking, what can you get from this? Well, what you get from watching this stream is some great Clash Royale and that Discord link, so you can go ahead and play 2 weeks from now and have a shot at making that $10,000 final in a few weeks as well. So a lot of things you can get here, but no drops, no giveaways, just great Clash Royale.
Someone saying Mo is broken. Yeah, he really is. It's crazy how on top of his cycle he truly is in late game like that. And it looks like we do have our next match coming your guys' way. We're going to go from number 1 to number 2. It's going to be Lucas versus Vinicius here. And we'll see if the underdog is able to take down the consensus number 2 player in the world after beating a very talented player in FurtCamp.
And yeah, this is also going to be a Brazil versus Brazil match. So in this round, we actually do have some really interesting ones. We have Brazil versus Brazil in our first match. Wero and Haciel, both out of Mexico. And then I believe that Mohamed Light and Awesome MK are both Egyptian.
Yeah.
So you have so many countrymen versus countrymen battles. So one thing we do know, the semifinals will have a Mexican, an Egyptian, and a Brazilian. Just the big question now is who's going to come out on top between Lawrence Stan and Seahawk. And then we'll get our full smorgasbord of players from around the world.
Yeah, that's a lot of fun. And that's another great thing about these open competitions is you do get players from all around the world every single... You know, for a while there with CRL, it felt like there were some places that were kind of left out, right? They didn't have a great representation. They didn't have a good squad there. They didn't have great esports in specific countries. But now we literally get players from all over the world in every single one of these, whether it's community events or CRL qualifiers. Let's hop into game here. We're going to Brazil. Let's do this.
Here we go. Vinicius top of your screen. Lucas at the bottom. Of course, Lucas currently number 2 overall in the world on CRL rankings. He's been having a great run that began early in 2020 in some of his semi-pro competition where he was already great and known at the time as one of the best hog cycle players in the world. A rough start to CRL, a great turnaround as he switched to 2v2, and now we find him here. The growth and maturity has been significant, and he finds himself at the top of the planet in Clash Royale.
Yeah, the only back-to-back winner at CRL in the monthly finals. You talk about not just the prize pool there, but the amount of points that he put up and the amount of great players that he defeated along the way. It really is going to be a blast to see Lucas and Mo face off against each other, maybe at World Finals, maybe even here today.
And this is going to be an interesting outing for Vinicius, who's up against, again, one of the best. And, of course, as a Brazilian, as a competitive player, he definitely knows who he's up against. So we'll see how well his nerves can hold. And you talk about a deck to play when you're nervous. Why not play a deck that requires very little placement? And that's going to be double spawners.
For sure. I just think that when you're playing against someone that is as good as Lucas, double spawners has a really difficult time unless it has a second, actually not even a second, a true win condition. And a lot of the time it's usually graveyard that we'll see paired with spawners. But when you talk about being just a double spawner deck that's looking to straight overwhelm, it can be really tough to do against guys that are as good as Lucas.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting because you do have the Furnace, which puts a lot of pressure on. Of course, you're now seeing the EQ come out as the last card from Lucas, so that can help him break through. The Furnace can be annoying minus that Earthquake. That Earthquake evens things up a lot in this matchup. The Barb Barrel certainly going to be helpful. But we haven't seen, at least yet, any significant real splash damage out of this deck.
Yeah, that's a very, very good point that you make. And then the other side of it with Vinicius just needs to cycle those Goblin Huts as often as possible when those Furnaces come off the board. Just keep buildings on the board and make sure they're going opposite lanes so that Earthquake just can't get too much value in the weaker of the two lanes. And yeah, I just think it's going to be really, really tough when you talk about being able to break through against Lucas. He's got the Hunter and that Royal Delivery to really, really help clean things up. You add in the Dark Prince, he's got a good amount of damage to be able to spread amongst that 6-man.
And there you go, Mortar to the right-hand side, and the Flying Machine. Look, this is a matchup where you look at Flying Machine, look at that as potentially abuse territory, since you see nothing to really counter it directly on the side of Lucas, but so far has not been a major factor in this matchup.
Yeah, and that's, Lucas doing a good job making sure he's got either his Hunter or his Delivery in response, and then, of course, Spear Goblins to add in just a little bit of love there you see right here, right? It's the moment that Flying Machine comes on the board, figure out a way to take it off, and this Mortar will get another connection.
Flying Machine down to about 2/3 health and does get a connection here, so not afraid to give up some damage right now as Lucas as he sets up some more offense, EQ in, and you see the exact reason why this is absolutely brutal for Vinicius.
Yeah, that Dark Prince still has its shield, Cannon Cart right behind, Spear Goblins behind, that's just a straight overwhelm, that's going to be towered down.
Wow, GG, well played. And look, V, as I don't know if it's Vinicius or how he pronounces it, but V, as we can call him here, is a 7.5K player, 75-51 personal best, but you're up against a guy who's an 8.9K, top one, absolute murderer for a very long time. And we'll talk a bit more about some of the pregame chatter between these two after the match is over once we have some more results. But definitely one of those ones where you got to respect the new player coming in here and putting up the best he can against one of the best in the world. But that's a tough out for anyone, and even somebody who's over 7K.
Yeah, I was just going to say, you get to 7.5K, and then you're playing against someone that still has about 1,500 trophies on you. It's insane. And we all know how it is climbing trophies. Every, like, 200 or 300 trophies is a massive exponential drop-off in skill levels. So we saw it right here. You know, when you're playing against double spawners, it's really, I mean, Lucas had a really great benefit there in having Earthquake and having a decently fast cycle that was able to keep up with the same, you know, the same as his opponents in Vinicius, but he didn't ever overextend himself in single elixir, and then once he got to double is when he started playing more aggressive, and that's what you have to do, because if you get overwhelmed with single and you find yourself down in elixir or down against these buildings that are on the board, you can't keep up with them even if you have Earthquake, that's when you've made your mistake. Really just sit back when you're running into double spawners until double elixir, then you can start making moves, and you can see right there, because you have a true win condition, you can get damage on tower, whereas the only way that you know, Vinicius got damage late game, man, was just like a couple flying machines sneaking through because Lucas allowed it.
Well, that's what's interesting about that matchup, right? Is the Flying Machine was potentially a linchpin card there with no true way to counter it. But Lucas knew very, very quickly that that was going to be the only way that any damage actually does get through. And you saw a couple of times where he was happy to tank that damage on his tower to create some offensive opportunities. To go ahead and say, hey, I'm going to back up this 5 elixir of the Royal Hogs with EQ and Dark Prince and put all that pressure on you. So, yeah, double spawner. I get why some people run it, especially in a maybe nervous situation, but it feels like one of those ones where I guess you're playing that game of the bit of the coin flip where you're going, can I out-match up this person as opposed to outplay this person?
Exactly. You're looking for a straight matchup advantage there, and there's really not a lot of great matchups out there when you're talking about guys at the top of the world, the best out there, because no matter what, you still have to overwhelm them. They still have to make mistakes defensively, and they're always better at defending than you imagine they're going to be. They can always overly defend for a very cheap amount of elixir, and that's one of the things that you have to do when playing against double spawners. And then, you know, he started to do what we were talking about Vinicius did in changing up the lanes of where he was dropping his goblin huts, putting them behind the other tower, but Lucas is just happy to Earthquake that and then worry about the weaker tower that he's pursuing.
Yeah, and that's going to be trademark Lucas. And now this is the hard part here. You know, you look at Lucas's side and you go, hey, maybe Lucas is losing a whole bunch of opportunities here just because it's going to be easier to put him on a deck. But you also know that Lucas is coming in with a much deeper ability for analysis with the team behind him, as opposed to Vinicius, who's coming in here with no one really to back him up, or I don't know how deep that is on his side. So let's go ahead to game number 2 and see if Vinicius can find out some decent sort of matchup situation here against Lucas.
So Lucas cycling Royal Ghost early on, maybe going to go to Royal Giant.
And Lava here for Vin, so back to the air for this one. And again, we're talking about decks that have a more straightforward play style. You're probably not going to out-micro Lucas.
Yep.
Right? So you talk about outplay. Maybe you can outplay in terms of big beatdown decision-making, but you're not going to out-micro him unless you're one of those guys who is a top 20 player in the world. So I like this call overall from V.
For sure. Incredibly strong deck out there. The Royal Ghost going to come down just in time to distract that Inferno, then go off the board, which you like to see there. Get some more pressure offensively. And Lucas gets a good fireball in, but that Miner's still tanking for the Inferno. That's going to be a good amount of damage.
Yeah, and that Inferno's going to get into stage 3, and wow! You know, I think we saw that same thing happen to Mo a few weeks ago. I can't remember if it was at Queso or if it was at CRL. So the same thing, I believe, happened to him, though, where an Inferno Dragon just kind of, like, escaped and got a little bit extra damage there, and it's crazy how fast that damage piles in when it gets into that stage 3.
Inferno is just so strong right now. People like threading the needle with the Inferno Dragon outside and getting into the tower because people are starting to drop their units more on the inside to defend against lava attacks, and it's just one of those things where the Inferno being able to squeeze by on that outside of the board can cause a lot of troubles. I lost a game to it earlier today, and we see Lucas almost losing a tower to it right now.
And this is not going to be easy for him. He does have that right-hand tower down pretty significantly. But the Inferno Tower and Electro Dragon, the double dragon variation of this, is going to make things difficult even when you do start playing that pocket game when you add in the Goblin Cage.
Yeah, luckily for Lucas, he does have that Electro Wizard, which he can try to get on top of the Inferno, but I guarantee Vinicius is going to make it very, very difficult. And the strategy that you talked about early on, Rich, paying off here for Vinicius, right? Go with the stronger deck in the meta that's a lot more drop in weight than it is interaction-wise, because you're not going to out-interact Lucas, and we are going to a 2-tower game.
So you see him setting up Cage early here inside. Probably going to do that pretty significantly. I doubt that we're going to see V kind of wait for those cages much and try to pick up the Royal Giants. Probably going to try to keep them cycled as much as possible, just because they also create this little bit of extra offensive pressure.
Yeah, and Lucas here happy to just keep double Teslaing up, and we'll see when he decides to ever drop that Royal Giant down. Royal Ghost is great for pressure because it baits out the only few brown cards that Vinicius has. And here we go. Royal Giant will get a couple shots in here with a nice log there from Lucas. Lots spent, though, offensively.
Yeah, and just for one shot, too, right? You sit there hoping that's going to get two. And look at this, the Brawler's on tower. Absolutely huge Brawler punching away here. A left and a right, an uppercut maybe. Did he throw a head kick? That tower is so far down to 412.
Just straight misses the Brawler with the Fireball. That is tough, and we are going to go to game number 3. Only 30 HP remains. Lucas has to take the tower right now before a Miner or a Fireball gets on top. And then we go Miner in right now. Miner goes to the tower, gets turned around. No, it does not. There we go. We're going to game 3.
Very well played by Vin, and that was a smart call, right? Again, going for a deck where he's not going to micro, have to outplay a micro. And you saw the pocket RG, even with the Royal Ghost, could not break through. I think maybe that was maybe miscalculated here. But yeah, we're gonna go one more here with V winning that one. A little preemptive there on the match victory screen, but we'll see what happens. But you saw he drops the RG in the pocket with the Royal Ghost to help clear it off, and still only gets one hit from it. Right? So you look at that. Once we're in a 2-tower game, that just makes things so brutal for this matchup.
Yeah, it really is tough when you talk about having the responses to RGs in the pocket. There's a lot of them there when you talk about the guards and that Goblin Cage. But then if you try to set up the RG at the bridge, it's going to take longer to get to the tower. You're going to give your opponent more time to build up a defense. And then they have a massive counter push coming in where they could drop a second lava in the pocket, which is something you never want to give them the opportunity to do. So what? Maybe you go for the 3 crown? I don't think that's a good idea either. It was just kind of tough stuff there for Lucas. Maybe it was just a little over aggressive with that Royal Giant, but I don't really know how he actually builds a push to take that tower anyway.
Well, he dropped the RG in the pocket when the cage was the cage came down right at the same time, as opposed to trying to find. And this was the hard thing about that matchup, right? Was when you want to drop that Royal Giant is right when that cage is about to pop or has just popped, as opposed to when the cage is back in cycle again. And he dropped it at just the most inopportune time. It got absolutely shut down and DPS all the way out with only one shot. And there wasn't a lot of opportunity there to create big offense, and it was always any offense was going to result in a big counter push. Yeah. But that might have been the most inopportune moment for that Royal Giant to meet that cage.
Yeah, I mean, I guess maybe one of the things that Lucas could have gone for is a 2-tower game in opposite lanes, right? So maybe in the beginning, instead of just going right into where the lava was going, he goes opposite lane. I think the trouble is he'd already dropped the Electro Wizard, and then he wanted to support the E-Wiz and create offense, or excuse me, support the Royal Giant with the E-Wiz, so he drops it in the same lane. And maybe actually that small decision early on in the match decided the end of it once we got to 2 towers, because going opposite lanes would have been a much nicer for Lucas in that situation, because then he wouldn't have had to worry about just giving all that attention, all that counter push to the same Princess Tower lane.
So here we go to game number 3. Let's take a look at the decks from the first 2 here, if I can bring them up on my variation of the Battlefly bracket. And of course, if you do type command bracket into the chat, you can go ahead and take a look at the bracket as well. That is going to be linked there in the chat for you guys. So game number 1, Lucas wins with Royal Hogs, Mortar, and EQ. Game number 2, it's the Lava Miner Guards. Of course, not with arrows, with Fireball variant. And here's the key factor going into this game 3 here, is that Lucas does have Fireball and Vin doesn't. So if I'm Vin, I am not running anything. I'm not giving Lucas that opportunity to hard counter with something that is weak to Fireball.
Yeah, I think Lucas definitely comes out with Fireball here. Maybe he goes something fast cycle, since wall breakers are very popular right now. He knows that his opponent doesn't have Fireball, so that he could maybe build up a push behind something like a Valkyrie or a Knight. But he still does have so many other options out there, like we talked about, or like you just talked about, because he used Fireball instead of arrows. Arrows a great response to firecrackers, great response to wall breakers. So maybe both Hog, EQ, and wall breakers cycle become less appetizing. I mean, maybe Lucas just goes back to what he just ran, right? It's a really, really strong deck. It just didn't, it wasn't even totally about the matchup. It was more so just about the start. He has E-Wiz in there. He has Fireball. He has Mega Minion. Those are great cards for air defense, but just with a rough, maybe start of where he decided to attack, maybe he just goes right back to Royal Giant. He is one of the best in the world with that card.
Yeah, it's certainly a great option for Lucas. I'm wondering if Vin maybe goes Graveyard here, and it looks like he might be. Oh, I guess Vin's gonna go Royal Giant as well. Interesting choice, and Lucas potentially going to Lava Miner.
Yeah, doing a bit of a change up here in win conditions. Although with the Bandit coming down, it could be something else. But yeah, Lucas definitely going to Lava Guards.
And some sort of P.E.K.K.A. bridge spam variation maybe here from Vin.
Yeah, and I like what he's doing here. He opts to eat the damage in one lane. He goes P.E.K.K.A. in the opposite, which means the lava has to come out in that same lane. So that little bit of damage he took from the Mega Minion doesn't really matter. It's kind of a non-factor in the game at the moment.
So P.E.K.K.A. Ram Rider, and so this is a good call. Look, the Mother Witch is going to be, and the Zappies are both weak to Fireball, but they're going to bait for each other and both play varying roles. So this is an interesting choice here from Vin, and I do like it.
Miner going to go to the back. There it is.
And that Fireball not going to come out. Not enough Elixir for Lucas to get the Fireball down. So this actually ends up being fairly nice for Vin in this exchange. Fireball does finally get both the Bandit and the Mother Witch. So color me wrong on that one, and that's going to be a flying machine that requires a response as well, and that's just a free Fisherman.
That's great. Lucas can just eat any damage that comes in. No damage comes in. Honestly, a head in Elixir. We'll see if he wants to set up a Lava Hound. That does feel like the best case scenario, though, right now, as we're about to get into double. I think he just sets up for another push. And there it is.
Yep, there you go. And P.E.K.K.A. opposite lane here from Vin.
This is tough, too, because you talk about Vin being able to really create some offense on the other side of the board. The cage is going to be great to pull that Ram Rider in, but the single target DPS of those guards with the flying machine and the brawler is pretty crazy.
Yeah, and the control here with the guards, too, against that P.E.K.K.A. So this would be very interesting. Of course, now you have the high Mother Witch to support this push, and that P.E.K.K.A. still alive and pretty healthy. So this is really, really dangerous stuff. Fireball can clean it up, and oh man, look at that damage on the right-hand side.
Yeah, that was a really, really nice Fireball there. It did look like Lucas was in trouble for just a second. Vinicius knows that the writing's on the wall, and Lucas going to send in that Miner, take out the Zappy, and just needs a Fireball here? No, doesn't even need it. Mother Witch gets taken out by those pups.
So here we go, final 10 seconds, and Vin has already waved the white flag here against his countrymen. And you certainly understand why. He's going to go for the Ram Rider at the bridge here and hope he can sneak on by, but Cage Guards will take care of that business.
And you like the call here by both guys when they won with Lava Hound. They went with Fireball instead of arrows, and those Fireball plays out of Lucas were massive. You know, the first one with the Fireball that comes on top of the Mother Witch and the Bandit, and then the second one that we just saw clean up the Mother Witch plus the P.E.K.K.A. on defense. Really, really nice stuff. The one thing that was a little odd was Vinicius's lightning on the last push. He lightning to the left-hand side that hit the guards and the flying machine, and it left the brawler cage on the board.
Ram Rider going to connect here. It's not going to be devastating damage, but keep an eye out here because Vin does have an Elixir advantage, and it doesn't seem like Lucas is comfortable trying to go for Fireball Cycle yet. Now we have the high Zappies and a great protection for that flying machine by that Lava Hound, and Vin now calling a good game. He has no way to stop that lava from doing some significant tower damage.
I just don't even understand how you can react that fast. And like, it feels like he would have had that Lava Hound hovering to catch those Zappies, and that's going to do it right there. 64 HP remains. Fireball comes in. Lucas is moving on here in our Royale Masters Sunday competition. Hey, he's already won $40,000+ in CR this year. Why not add a little bit more?
Yeah, and that's just talking about CRL when he's sorry, added in whatever he's gotten from. Oh, I don't know. Let's go look at his Royale API account and figure out how many tournaments he's won this year. Queso, his winnings from the Queso Cup and all the other Bren Chong, whatever other winnings he's gotten. Someone should do Royale API. I don't know if you're watching or listening. Can you do us a full accounting of everything that Mo's won this year and how much money he's taken down? Or maybe Julesy is in the chat. He can pop in and be like, well, here's how much I've made from Mo this year. So we can find out what kind of chips he's stacking, and with a lot more on the line, not just today, but of course with CRL World Finals on their way as well. I
know. I wish that that Liquipedia had like a really accurate update of it, because I know they have like kind of an estimate. Like Muhammad Light, I think, is estimated at like around $41,000 this year, but I feel like with the other competitions, he might have a little bit more. And talking about this round here, we are in our quarterfinals, I believe. Yes. And Lord Stanley and Seahawk, Awesome MK, Muhammad Light, Wero, and Haciel all still remain, as Vinicius has just been eliminated after Vinicius eliminated Furkan. So still 3 more matches coming your way in our quarters. Then we'll move on to our semis. And yeah, excited to see the stuff here between Mexico and Egypt. There's a couple matches between Wero, Haciel, obviously both from Mexico, and then Awesome, MK, and Mohammed Light, both from Egypt. Lord Stanleyan, CR? What is that, Czech Republic? Seahawk is Turkey.
And Seahawk is Turkey. I don't know what Lord Stan is. I'll have to go take a look at that. Maybe we'll find his profile on Royale API. Just taking a look at some of the stuff that Mo's done this year, by the way. If someone's trying to calculate what his winnings have been, Egypt won no-till Worlds back in April, so that's certainly something there. Not to mention the Grand Zone Gaming Cup. But then also, top 6 at the Queso Cup Summer Split, second place at the Queso Cup Fall Split, first place at the Bren Chong Cup, and I know those are like 30,000 prize pool. I think the Bren Chong Cup had like a $15,000 grand prize. So if you start doing the math on Stanley stands from Costa Rica.
Yes.
You start doing the math on Mo, and he might be getting close to. He's certainly over 50, and he might be getting close to 75, and with a good chance to push 100K this year.
Just incredible the amount that you can pick up as one great player in Clash Royale on your own. And still in the runnings here as we hop into our second matchup in our quarterfinals. Stanleyan, who has been undefeated through 2 days, going up against Seahawk from Turkey.
And big thanks to Demon Donkey, who says, nice sunglasses, Rich. Demon Donkey, stick around. I have some sunglasses I'll put on later just for you. So
Royal Hogs, top of your screen. Still pretty popular this weekend, but maybe not as successful as some people would have liked.
Yeah, Madi saying in the Twitch chat, good chance for Mo to push for 350K this year, as this is a $250 or $200,000, whatever the grand prize is for CRL Worlds. And that's absolutely true.
Man, talk about life-changing money there.
Yeah, right? I should get better at Clash.
Yeah.
Never going to happen, Slayton. Just go ahead and keep casting. Good talk. Thank you. Final minute 45 here as we've gotten past the first minute 15 between Lord Stan and Seahawk. And Lord Stan went undefeated in match play yesterday, right? It was, I think his actual game record was pretty gaudy, although I think the top game win rate was the American player Ian, who ended up having the actual top game rate, even though he didn't have an undefeated record.
Kaiser Soze saying, when is Andrew getting the prescription gooders? I didn't know they had them. Gonna have to get them.
Yeah, dude, we gotta hook you up. I don't know if they have them specifically as prescription, or if you just like buy the frames and then replace them with your optometrist. I almost said your ophthalmologist. I don't know who does eyes. My eyes are perfect, so I don't really have a problem. But oh, look at that, and nice Mega Knight onto the pigs.
Brawler on the left-hand side though, so MK has to come down. The overspend there out of Stanley and only in one lane, and now we get a great counter push coming in from him.
And I see Showtime asking, is this the last chance to get in the finals? No, the last chance qualifier is 2 weekends from now. I'm putting the exclamation point or command Discord in the chat. You can go to the Discord and you can find out ways to register for the last chance qualifier 2 weekends from now. So not next weekend, but the weekend after.
Yeah, Mr. Gooby, thank you. You got it. It's always nice when you get some help there, an assist in the chat.
And the really high flying machine from Lord Stan gets sniped by the Mega Minion. We'll see if he does maybe create a bit more space or protection for that flying machine in the middle. Of course, a Fireball going to take care of business with that as well. E-Barb split as we go into the final 10 seconds here before we go into sudden death overtime.
Valkyrie going to get just close enough so that Mega Knight doesn't leap, and then a second cannon cart comes down. Another nice snipe up high with the Mega Minion here for that +1 trade, and Seahawk seems to have this completely locked down defensively, at least at the moment.
Yeah, it's just, you know, you have the Royal Hogs to get through, but they're not going to do it, especially not now that your tower's down. So
yeah,
I was going to say a thing, but it's perfectly unimportant now at this point.
Yeah, nice fireball to the inside, takes the Mother Witch out of play. Zappy's come down a little bit late, way too late, actually, when you talk about how much damage already came in from those Royal Hogs, having trouble targeting, and then tower goes down with the Mega Minion on top there, so really nicely played there by Seahawk, and it honestly looked like it just came from a whole bunch of great defense, and then opportune moments where he went on offense, but he never seemed to really kind of go for it. It was just kind of counter pushes that turned into tower down.
Well, you know, it's one of those things where he's playing up against a Mega Knight deck as a Hog Rider player, or as a Royal Hogs player, and of course they're playing Royal Hogs on both sides. But if you do try to play the offensive pressure game playing this deck against a Mega Knight deck, you're going to get you're going to get massive counter pushes. And we almost saw one, right? We saw the Mega Knight come down, the Mega Knight in one lane, Fly Machine on the other, and it was handled very well. But letting his opponent, letting Lord Stan push into him and then be able to turn that ends up being a better choice, in my opinion, than just trying to keep pounding your head against the wall of what that deck actually looked like.
Yeah, he did such a great job, too, of using that Valkyrie as a tank on the right-hand side, getting that second cannon cart down to take the MK and the E-Barb out of play, and then the cannon cart working its way across the bridge adds just enough pressure so that Lord Stanleyan doesn't know how to adequately defend, which is why we saw those Zappies come down way late after a Mother Witch was the first line of defense. Neither of those really optimal when you talk about defending Royal Hogs.
Well, Poison's a weird call for the big spell here in this deck out of Lord Stan, right? Because what are you building Poison around defending that your deck doesn't currently defend, right? You have the Mega Knight for the pigs, you have the Barb Barrel and the E-Barbs and the Mother Witch all for graveyards. What is the point of the Poison in this variant? Maybe someone in the chat has an idea on this. And speaking of people in the chat, stopping by right now to cheer on Seahawk, maybe his later opponent, Haciel, in the chat here, who will be seen against Wero in a little bit.
Yeah, good to see you here, Haciel. Excited to watch your game, and let's hop into game number 2 of this matchup with Seahawk up just 1, and a Magic Archer comes down with some Spear Goblins. Okay.
This could be minor Wall Breakers with Magic Archer. That one runs some Spears. There's also a Drill deck that has those same 2 cards, and looking like minor Wall Breakers.
The other side of it might be seeing Graveyard out of Stan. And here we go. Inferno, yeah.
Yeah, I guess you have. I mean, I'm curious to see what the rest he's running of why he just. I never like it when people cycle a tower super early. I guess you're saying that you're ahead on Elixir, so why not? But it always does feel like kind of a risky move. Maybe he's looking at this going, okay, I'm unlikely to be against anything really, really big and tanky. Might as well just burn down that Valk. It's early, but that always does make me nervous when someone does that early.
Yeah, the cycle of the building early on is always a bit odd, and yeah, maybe just not having a better response to that Valkyrie. Second Valkyrie comes down as this aggressive Magic Archer comes up, and this is some great damage in from Seahawk. Only 6 Elixir to defend, though. How's he going to do it?
And the big thing he's concerned about is that Cannon Cart does a great job of it. Pulls the Valk back, and the Princess Tower does not go to the Valk. So he's going to eat a pretty significant chunk of damage here. Oh no, nice kite there with the Wall Breakers. He's still going to eat some good damage here, I think, though, from the Valk. Never mind. Okay, just keep on doing some nice kiting up there. What else you got here, Seahawk? Do you have an anti-archers whatever here? Yeah, there's the damage finally.
Yeah, we knew it was coming eventually. There's no way he can just keep kiting around a full HP Valkyrie and not take any damage from it, but that was incredibly enjoyable from my chair.
Yeah, I'm sure you loved that one. Me, I have a bone to pick with Seahawk after this one.
Someone asking in the chat, how many people from today will qualify for the finals? Sorry for too many questions. Technically, at least one will qualify for finals. If they get first place, they should be qualified for our finals. And then depending on where second and third place lie, maybe other people will give themselves a nice cushion to have a lead over the other competitors out there. But we really won't truly know until the end of today and the LCQ.
And also, don't apologize for questions about what we're talking about. That's absolutely awesome. We love on-topic conversation. That's super awesome.
As opposed to people just debating about the same thing for 4 hours.
Oh boy, Andrew. Pandora's box.
I know. I've done it.
Cannon Cart in deep here. That's a good fireball. Knight has to come in high. Wall Breakers will get a 1-2 shot on the left-hand side. And we are pretty darn close, except for the fact that Seahawk does have dual lane pressure. But look at everything. Okay, what do you have to defend all of this, Seahawk? Please show me how you're going to defend all of this. And that's the NATO. Going to get that Cannon Cart to no. That Wall Breakers kite is
that's tough.
Risky.
You're just giving Elixir to your opponent at this point. Now the Mega Minion tanking for the Archer. Skelly's piling up, and this could just be game over for Seahawk. Yep, it is.
This is more like what I thought was going to happen the first time around when the Valkyrie just wouldn't touch the tower. And now 235 on the right-hand side up against Fireball and Arrows. The Fireball comes in. Arrows should not be very far behind. And your Minor Wall Breakers push ain't going to do a whole lot here to win this game.
No, it's not. Miner goes to the back. Archers plus Valkyrie up high and still just waiting on the arrows to come down. There they are. And we are all tied up going into game number 3. And I think one of the issues there for Seahawk is while the kites were really great, you got to remember that when you're kiting that much, there's a moment when you see the best players in the world just go, all right, I've overspent, we're even in Elixir, and they still have a very healthy unit on the board. I just need to eat that damage. Now, it is obviously really tempting to keep kiting around because you have such a cheap cycle deck, and maybe you can avoid 100% of the damage, but then it just started to just kind of be this downhill push for Stanley and for the rest of the game, especially considering that he was running Graveyard. I liked what we saw out of Seahawk. It was definitely fun, but still just overspending to defend.
Well, that's a really, really hard matchup overall for Seahawk anyway. Let me go look at the exact variant he was running here. I mean, Poison should make that better, and Poison should make that a lot better. But the fact that you had arrows in there for the spears, you had Fireball in there for the Magic Archer. Magic Archer's not great against it anyway.
Yeah.
And for some reason, he was never, maybe it's because the Tesla slows the cycle of this deck way down, but was never really able to get Poison down defensively in this matchup. And actually, I know I often... I've run variants of this deck, but I've often run it with either Tesla or Bomb Tower, depending on what I'm expecting matchup-wise for a faster cycle. And the Inferno Tower just feels like a bit of a strange, maybe a bit of a choice where you're scared of going up against beatdown, so you throw it in there, but didn't serve him in this matchup. Yeah,
I think because maybe Lava Miner is so popular, that becomes a little bit more appetizing, as is, Royal Giant cycle. But I agree. I think with this deck, with how quick it cycles, with how strong Tesla is, you don't really need a Bomb Tower because you have some Splash, you have Poison, you have NATO, excuse me. I do think he should have just maybe gone Tesla here. He would have been able to keep up with the cycle a bit better, and maybe if his cycle was just a hair faster, he would have been able to get back around to a more effective unit as opposed to just kiting with 2 Elixir Wall Breakers that don't create any offense and don't actually take those units off the board defensively. Maybe he would have been able to get back to a Knight.
Yeah, maybe, but in this case, didn't happen. So here we go into game number 3. Let's see what's going to come out for both these sides again. Stan, not going to go Graveyard again, and Fireball out for both of these players, as Seahawk won with it once, and so did Stan. So you also understand why Poison was in that deck because of the lack of Fireball. And interesting here from Seahawk, who might be going with a Hog EQ variant, but we have seen Ian run Hog EQ with Spears instead of Skeletons.
Yeah, that's exactly what it's looking like here. Earthquake cycles, you see the Fire Spirit come out. Fire Spirit, just a little bit more popular than the Ice Spirit variant right now, just because of those cards you're seeing right now in the Royal Hogs. Having that splash damage to help clean them off the board, as opposed to the Ice Spirit that just kind of slows them down, or the Electro Spirit that just stuns them. The Fire Spirit's damage, really, really helpful, and in turn can go back behind the Hog Rider on offense.
So, here we were talking about this same sort of idea earlier about Hog variants, and Seahawk did run Log earlier, so Hog EQ this time with the arrows. And so far have not seen a target for arrows on Lord Stan's side, and that's one of the hard parts about playing arrows decks overall, but an arrows variant of this deck in particular is you're really betting on a target for arrows, and right now that's looking like a long call for Seahawk.
Yeah, and using those arrows effectively, maybe coupled with the Fire Spirit, will end up being great against the Royal Hogs, but I just feel like that's not going to be as easy to execute as I'm hoping for Seahawk here.
So Mega Knight with the pigs behind. Firecracker plays low here, and Tesla plus Knight will control pretty nicely, but that's good pressure from the Royal Ghost on the right-hand side.
Yeah, great pressure there from the Royal Ghost. You see here Spear Goblins coming out, really an inopportune response. Ineffective as we get double damage in both lanes here. And just like that, this game is definitely not over yet, but going down that much in single Elixir against, or when you're playing Hog EQ cycle, is really tough.
Does get the lead just a little bit back there, so decent recovery, but this is one of those ones where, again, my big question was the choice of arrows variant. In general, Hog EQ is a more defensive deck than people give it credit for, and in general, I actually prefer the delivery variant over the arrows one. I think this would have obviously been a great situation for that.
Yeah, and I think if I'm Lord Stanley right here, I'm going to do just the cycle from the back. I'd like to maybe even see the MK cycled in the back as opposed to the Royal Ghost, because he can just work towards this left-hand lane and make Seahawk go to the right-hand side. Because he's always going to win the single lane battle. That's one of the things with Hog EQ is you have to be okay to switch lanes, because you can literally get the towers even in one Hog send.
And Flying Machine does get picked up here, doesn't do any more damage. Hog Rider in. Mega Knight goes high, and 918 on that left-hand on the left-hand tower. 8:20 though the mark where Lord Stan is in the lead.
Nice catch there on the Flying Machine with the high Knight here, but Flying Machine going to take out the Tesla, and now that MK still alive, no Tesla alive, and Royal Hogs come in. There's the Fire Spirit, and a Knight comes down. Ooh, not a good situation to be in.
Yeah, that's a GG. That's a well played. Poison will finish this one off. Lord Stan just has to hold off one hog push, and you don't have anything to stop that hog or stop those Zappies from slowing the hog down, so just going to wait on the poison. Seahawk waves the white flag, a good game, and Lord Stan continues to be an absolute dominating force in this Week 3 competition.
Yeah, you'd love to see it, man. The kind of no-namer coming in, and he's just been clean through now, I guess, 9 rounds of play. The 7 yesterday, and he gets through round 2 here. And really great stuff out of him, you know, just never overextending himself, recognizing the matchup, playing heavily in that same lane, getting dual lane pressure in because it is hard to defend dual lanes with that Hog EQ deck when you only have one tank. And yeah, just really good. I mean, there's really not a whole lot to say about it. Nothing super flashy in that game, but just well played.
I see Chira24 saying Knight repeated. Yes, Knight was repeated, but repeated by a player who'd lost with Knight.
Yes.
So this is that modified duels format that was just described in the chat here, but one more time, you only have cards out if you've won with them, but not if you've lost with them. So that's an interesting one. And again, we talked about it a bit more in the first weekend, Andrew, but one thing that I think lacks from the current duels format that's in CRL or inside of the game is that because both players lose all the cards they play, it makes a BO5 nearly impossible to play. But I think this might be the one that unlocks the idea of a full-on BO5.
I love that, actually. You make a really, really good point with the regular duels format. It's really tough to put together that many decks that don't use any of the same cards. This does feel like the best way to get around it. So a big shout out to RoyaleMSTRS for figuring out another really fun format and evolving with the duels format. So we are halfway, essentially, maybe even a little more than halfway through our day. We're definitely halfway through our quarterfinals. Mohamed Light, awesome MK coming your way in just a bit, as is Haciel and Wero. A couple civil wars taking place in Mexico and Egypt, but we are going to take a quick break here for just a minute. Don't you move a muscle. We'll be right back.
She was always smiling from ear to ear, baby, and everybody wondered if right. Will she ever know the feeling of tears? All she said to them was live your life just like you're young again. No, don't you cry. Just get back up again. If you want a life, then live it better. If you want love, then stay together. If you want to smile, then be
And did you miss me? I missed you. I know Andrew missed you as well. Guys, if you're just joining us, it's Royale Masters. This is the end of our Week 3 qualifier. We'll look at our bracket here in just a moment as we are choosing not just players who get a big part of this $5,000 prize pool, but on top of that, points to qualify for our overall championship, our playoffs, and finals. And so far, we do have 2 of our top 4, Lord Stan and Lucas, have both guaranteed themselves at least $300 and, of course, a whole lot of points towards that championship. But we still have 2 more semifinalists to choose, Awesome MK or Mohammed Light. And coming up next, Wero, one of the top bridge spam players, maybe the best bridge spam player of all time, up against the young, talented rookie from Mexico, Haciel.
Yeah, a lot of fun here between these 4 players. They're all massive stars in the game. Awesome MK, I'd say maybe on his way just a little bit. And actually, we're getting a switch up here. We're going to go into Awesome MK versus Mohammed Light for our next quarterfinal matchup over in Egypt, the #1 player in the world, going up against Awesome MK, who has said, at least I know from GameStars, that the MK is clearly his favorite card in the game, which means that we usually see a good amount of MK Graveyard with him, and we also see MK Royal Hogs. Obviously, with our format, he can only play one of those versions. Very curious to see what he decides on.
And I see Judgmental in the chat saying that Andrew and Rich refreshing makeup and having champagne backstage. No, getting some more Texas sweet tea and pulling out the donkey goggles. That was what I was up to. And we're here for it. We're here for it, though. And, man, Awesome MK and Mohammed Light. I mean, you've seen a lot more. We've both seen tons of Mohammed Light.
Right.
You've seen a little bit more of Awesome MK. You say MK Graveyard, of course, a direction for him. Do you feel like when you're a player who you can put on a deck so easily that makes it even more of a challenge for that player going up against Mo Light and the combination of his coach, Julesy?
I think so. I mean, I think one of the things that Awesome MK has to do is actually veer away from his favorite card in the game and swap it out. You know, when you go through and look at his battles, he's been playing a lot of MK Lightning Ram Rider, so it looks like he's at least been playing a different variation. He's been playing more MK Ram, less MK Graveyard, less MK Royal Hogs. But I do think when you're going up against someone that is as good as Mo, when he has that analyst behind him in Julesy. I mean, he's also got Goblin Giant Sparky in here. He's got a Lava Miner Guards deck. I'd like to see maybe something like that. Goblin Giant Sparky can be so frustrating, and it can match up really, really well out there. And a lot of people aren't expecting it. We've seen very, very little of it, maybe 0 of it here at Royale Masters. I'm trying to think, maybe we've seen it once in prior weekends, but we definitely haven't seen it this one.
Well, we'll see if that's the direction he goes in here against Mo. And the other half of that is we've seen Mohammed Light take some really interesting risks here at this tournament. It does seem like he's doing a good job of utilizing this time period to test out different looks in preparation for those World Finals. So we'll see if he continues to use a tournament like this one as more of a testing ground. And, of course, he has the competitive fire, wants to win the money, wants to win the championship. But it does feel like this is also a good opportunity for him to get himself ready for the big show coming up in December.
So right now, Awesome MK looks like he could just be running that deck that was literally the one on the top of his battles, but he swaps out P.E.K.K.A. for MK, and you know, maybe still going to go with Ram Rider here. And that's one of the things that we saw him do this last week at GameStars was he would swap in P.E.K.K.A. for Mega Knight, which isn't like the biggest swerve, but it is different.
Well, I mean, especially if you don't think you're up against Royal Hogs or something splashy, it's also there's a good reason for it, right? P.E.K.K.A. Ram Rider was more popular than Mega Knight Ram Rider for a while.
Yeah.
But then as the meta shifted, it changed.
And talking about it being in a very great matchup here, that Mega Knight, or excuse me, that P.E.K.K.A. can do great work against all the units you're seeing on the board. Royal Ghost comes down just a second late here as that Knight gets some great damage on tower. Mohammed Light back in the lead.
Yeah, I mean, certainly the P.E.K.K.A. Nice counter to Hog, obviously. This is an interesting question, though, because those skeletons do not have the same utility against a Mega Knight as they do against a P.E.K.K.A. So we'll see how much viability Mo can get out of those from a kite perspective.
Yeah, and the ability to surround that Royal Ghost with the skeletons as well. He's got great responses there to, you know, both those units where he might not want to use his Knight or his Royal Delivery, and this right here looks like a great spot for a Royal Delivery. Instead cycles a Knight behind.
We're not going to keep that Magic Archer from connecting there, so it doesn't have to spend it, which is nice for him, of course. This is one of those situations where, for Mo, a major key here is trying to find positive elixir trades on defense and turn that into some sort of offense. You fall behind in this matchup, that's going to become a real problem. So look for Mo to try to spend as little as possible, as often as possible.
And that's a late, nice Tesla from Mo to avoid the Fish Boy and help here with this defense, but great cleanup with that EQ arrows coming in from Awesome MK. A lot of damage in.
Yeah, that EQ getting in high there and takes care of the skeletons with perfect timing. That opened up the entire door. You get the Tesla, the skeletons get out of the way, and that just created a nice path for that Ram Rider to go right to tower.
And now Mohamed Light going to the cycle game. He wants to out-cycle these fishermen because they are going to be the biggest difficulty, but the problem is MK can always have a fisherman, a P.E.K.K.A, or a Ram Rider down, and you see doing a great job cycling from the back here all of his responses to that hog, and there's no way Mo can actually win the game by just Earthquake cycling because his opponent has one as well.
The interesting question here is, can Mo get it close enough that he outcycles from speed, though, right? I mean, they both have Earthquake, but Mo can get around so fast. His quickest cycle, let's see, 1, 2, I think it's going to be 8 Elixir, his fastest cycle, with that Earthquake getting in. So the question is, can he outcycle it in the end from that perspective? But it's going to be hard to do that and keep these defenses together.
Road delivery comes down just a second early, misses that Ram Rider. Ram Rider going to go right on through to that Tesla. And now Ram Rider is going to take the damage from the Princess. Great job by Mo staying alive.
Magic Archer staying near the middle and outside of snipe range, so doing a good job of stacking here is Awesome MK at the moment. Skeleton's not going to hold off that Royal Ghost long enough, and the Royal Ghost doesn't swing, though. Wow. Perfect micro here from the #1 player in the world.
Yeah, that Fire Spirit timing was immaculate. 983 to 993, only 10 HP separates the two of them, and the fact that Mohamed Light has been able to control this without a log to reset this Ram Rider and just the Tesla has just been astounding to me.
Yeah, this is where things get interesting, right? Because he can outcycle the EQ, he's up against EQ and arrows, and so that's the real X factor here, is how much can Awesome put the pressure on right now. I think Mo might be going back around to another hog, and he does, but the hog gets in front of the Knight rather than behind the Knight, and that, oh my gosh, it still gets a hit.
Wow, and you know, maybe that was actually on purpose. The Knight coming down second distracts the P.E.K.K.A, so the P.E.K.K.A turns towards the Knight and not the Hog Rider. It looked like it was a mistake. I guess we'll probably never know, but at least from my seat as well, man, it looked like he misplayed that, but P.E.K.K.A focuses on that Knight instead of the Hog Rider, and Mohamed Light is going to win this game.
That Hog Rider high keeps the Magic Archer turned away. 192, though, on that bottom right-hand tower. This Hog Rider has to sneak through and do something here. EQ in. Double E was just trying to stop it. Hog Rider does not touch the tower. Here we go. EQ cycle now by Awesome MK. Arrows come in as well.
Wow.
And man, Momo nearly played through the snipe. Unbelievable play by Mohamed Light, but Awesome MK does come out with the win.
Yeah, you got to call that what it was, and it was a perfect snipe, a perfect matchup. The fact that there was 3 cards that could always be cycled from the bat that would really control that Hog Rider, and that Mo recognized, I have to win this game by keeping at least within striking distance with the Earthquake, but I have to get a couple more hog hits on tower, and you saw he was so close to getting that next one, but a great job by Awesome MK and the deck that he brought to play with.
Yeah, that was absolutely insane. I mean, it's one of those questions where, you know, you're not running a log variation of hog EQ, you're running just this EQ and delivery variant. And it's a question, right? Because the log would give you more chip, it would knock some things back a bit,
yep.
But that delivery ended up being so key in winning some of those bridge fights. So, you know, you can't really, I don't know those 2 different variants of the matchup enough to say which one would have been better here. But man, what a great bit of gameplay from Mo, and a great call there by Awesome MK.
Yeah, and a big shout out here in the chat, someone reminding us that Mohamed Light is dealing with a little bit of health issues right now, some sickness. I believe that he did say he tested positive for COVID, so obviously we wish him a very quick, speedy, and healthy recovery, as doesn't seem to be affecting his gameplay a whole lot out here, which has just been incredible. There is apparently some brain fog that happens with COVID, but not at all to Mohamed Light. That game was about as close as it could get, playing through a very difficult matchup, and he didn't really have the luxury of being able to switch lanes either, because his opponent had so many great responses to the hog that once the damage was done, he had to just keep going in that same lane. He couldn't start Earthquake cycling on the left-hand side of the board because it would have just been completely frivolous. His opponent could have just ignored anything that came in there other than hogs and went back on offense.
I saw people talking in the chat right now about whether Hog EQ is overrated, says Serenity. I see someone else saying, I've never seen Hog EQ, I don't see Hog EQ win competitive matchups, and I would strongly disagree. There's a reason why it's so centrally popular. Hog EQ wins a lot of matchups, and Hog EQ is one of those decks that you saw it here. This was a snipe on the part of Awesome MK, and still Mo nearly able to outplay with Hog EQ. And that's one of the things about Hog Earthquake overall, is it isn't just a well-constructed deck that has a lot of good matchups, is that the 100 zeros against it are less than many other matchups, and it can outplay with in the best of hands.
What's so great about Hog Earthquake, and literally you took the words out of my mouth because I knew you were going to talk about outplayability, because that's where this deck really does shine, is the ability to get damage on tower with that deck. Usually with the Firecracker, you can get some good splash damage for units that come down to defend the Hog. Obviously, the Hog coming in is the biggest and best way to get damage on tower, but of course that Earthquake cycle, if you're even within 600 HP late game, you can just Earthquake cycle your way out. So a deck that may look like it's not that strong has a lot of great ways to get damage on tower, and as Rich just said, an incredible outplayability.
And it looks like Awesome's going Lava Clone in this situation, which, look, if you're going to try to beat Mo and you don't feel like you can out-micro him, go ahead Lava Clone. You're up one game, which is nice, and this is one of those ones where you maybe just go for the out matchup and see if you can knock him out with a quick 1-2 blow. But you're playing Lava Clone up against Poison and Delivery and Fire Spirit. So that does feel like a rough one here for Awesome.
Shout out here to Chazmac Gaming in the chat, saying, first of all, just a big shout out to you. And then he's saying, well, if you just want to see good Hog EQ, just watch Ian77 play with Hog EQ, and that is 100% correct. And this is an incredible snipe from Mohamed Light. When you talk about all of the things that he has to deal with Lava Clone, he's got Poison, he's got Delivery, he's got Fire Spirit, he's got Mortar to pull things in, and of course that Musketeer to sit far away. And you can see Awesome MK just going, how on earth did they know I was going to play this deck?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's in his recently play. Maybe he just won a grand with it. Who knows? But great call here from Mo and Julesy. Man, this is going to be really, really interesting to see what Awesome thinks he can pull off here. And all it takes is one weird cycle where a clone can just come and completely slap that tower. But because of both the Delivery and the Poison, it seems like that weird cycle is not going to happen.
Yeah, and it's crazy, too. You go and you look through all of Awesome's games, and he doesn't have one with Lava Clone, maybe at least on this account. He has like 5 accounts, so maybe it's in a different one. But that is just an astounding call there by Julesy and Momo.
And now the clone comes out, and it has to come out. Delivery goes not to one of those Lava Hounds, but then the Poison does come and clean that up as well. And I do see someone in the chat asking if it was dual mode. Yes, it is. It's a dual mode variant, though, where you only lose cards that you win with. A little note from Latak here. Awesome has recently gone to Lava Clone in these type of situations competitive. So nice pickup here from Julesy.
Yeah, great call there by Julesy, just recognizing it's going to come out in game number 2 or a deciding game. And Awesome MK maybe recognizing, all right, so this is why he's number 1 in the world, and this is why an analyst gets paid, because that was a 0,000 matchup for Awesome MK, not 0-100. There's no way Mohamed Light loses that game.
I mean, maybe if he's playing against one of us.
Yeah, yeah.
But even, I think that even you and I would have won that matchup potentially. So nice work to CMG and Julesy and the entire team working there with Mo on these picks. That's a pretty nice win, and we are all evened up 1-1. Man, you're Awesome MK. You sit there, go like, dude, I took game 1 off of Mo. Now what do I do? Go for a 100-0 matchup. Cool. I guess I'll play Lava Clone, and then you run up against that. Man, I wonder, like, this is why I think we can't always have cams for a wide variety of reasons. It's a production challenge for sure. This is why you want cameras, though, is because I want to see the look on Awesome's face when he realizes what he's up against.
Yeah, for sure, where he's just like, what the heck? How did this even happen? And yeah, looking at the matchup here, if you go on Royale API with matching the exact match or 7 cards or more, is literally 100% to 0. Literally, it is a 100-0 matchup. Probably because it's never really been played before, because that deck from Mohamed Light, really unorthodox, but talk about just the best matchup possible. And yeah, hats off to Julesy.
Yep, hats off indeed, and that's also the benefit of having the full complement to pick from in game number 2 after you lose game number 1 is, you know, you get good information and you're pretty flexible. So we'll see. And again, we talked about this briefly before the break, but when this does become to the point of if you ever do this in a 5-game set, what I really like about that possibility is if you go down 2-0, your opponent is down 16 cards and you're not. Right? So the ability for comebacks, I think the number of 5-game matches that we'll see, 4 and 5-game matches that we'll see if this does become a BO5 at some point, will be pretty astounding because of that ability to come from behind, the catch-up advantage it gives you.
Yeah, it feels like that game 3, if 2 games have gone in the direction of one player, that game 3 should almost be 100% win every single time for the player that is behind, because there's so little. I mean, you talk about the current meta, right? I mean, right now we have maybe 4 or 5 decks out there that are really popular, but having 0 overlap in all of them is really, really difficult. So even if you were able to swap a fireball for arrows, say, you got to be able to find or at least see that, maybe the foresight of that happening, and then take advantage of that fireball or arrows being out of cycle. And talking about what is and what is not available, Awesome MK winning game number 1 with Ram Rider P.E.K.K.A, but there was also Royal Ghost, Fish Boy, Earthquake, Arrows, and Electro Wizard in there. And then talking about what we just saw out of Muhammad Light, you know, no miner available, no poison available, but he still has Tesla, he still has Valkyrie. There's still a lot of opportunity out there for him to build a really strong deck, because he's not really a guy that plays these mortar, miner, poison decks that much. I think he just knew he was going to have a good matchup, and now has a lot available for game number 3.
You know what he does have back for game 3 if he wants to go to it again? Is Hog EQ.
Yep.
He actually does have a bunch of Hog EQ variants, so that'd be very curious to see if he goes that direction. Of course, he doubled up Knight and Muskie and went with Knight, Muskie, Skellies in deck 1 where he lost and deck 2 where he won. So those 3 are out, but there are some Hog EQ variants that are available here, and that would be an interesting reversal of fortunes. And we'll see, you know, again, if you're on the side of Awesome trying to make the pick here, that's something you have to consider from a guy who plays that deck very well.
I would almost love to see Awesome just run this deck back. After getting dominated so badly with this matchup, maybe he, you know, it feels like that he would shy away from it, but if he goes right back into it, and he did run into Hog EQ, he could be in a really, really good spot. So we'll see just exactly what both of them want to do, as we are just waiting on them to get their decks ready as we hop into game number 3. And of course, we do have one more matchup here in our quarterfinals over in Mexico between Haciel and Wero. That'll be the last one of our quarters, and then it's just 4 matches left on the day. Lord Stanleyan and Payne Lucas will be facing off, or CMG Lucas, I should say, as that is his Battlefy name. And then whoever wins this set will be up against the winner of Wero and Haciel. So a little bit more action going on with a lot of big names.
Yeah, let's go ahead and jump into game number 3 here. Awesome MK against Muhammad Light. Winner moves on, loser leaves town. Meaning they do actually have to move out of Egypt. They made a deal. The loser has to leave Egypt. You know, so sorry that your family's going to miss you.
Egypt not big enough for the both of them. And we see a miner get caught by this Valkyrie. So Mo Light going to go to bait and see what Awesome wants to run back. Obviously not going to be the same deck because it didn't have miner in it, but could still go to the skies.
So very, very aggressive early bait play here from Mo. Valk tanking, but the guards come out and do their job for Awesome MK with a nice counter push going the opposite direction.
Brawler getting tanked for just by 1 second there by one guard, but Log comes in and Flying Machine going to clean off that Dark Goblin. Mo cycled all the way back around again, and so we know what we're going to see here, and Awesome MK not happy about his matchup once again. Valkyrie to deal with the guards. You talk about the Dark Goblin and the Princess to deal with those Lava Pups. Add in that Electro Spirit to help out, slow him down. Muhammad Light in a good spot once again.
Yeah, Fireball is going to be a bit of an annoyance here for Awesome, as opposed to having, he'd love to have been able to have the arrows here instead of the Fireball. But instead, he's in a tough spot where that's going to slow him down significantly with these cycles.
Yeah, those arrows would have been just wonderful for him to have. Now you see having to play a little uncomfortably, an Inferno Dragon to catch this Princess, Dark Goblin right behind, Fireball on both, but still down in Elixir, and this Inferno Dragon can be ignored.
Haven't seen a building yet from Mo, and it feels like this isn't a building variant. Oh my word. That's just absolutely rough.
Just recognizing the cycle, knowing Fireball is not available, sends in the Valkyrie at the bridge. Nothing can really come down up high because you know the barrel's going to go low. Barrel does go low. Guards are there. Valkyrie on tower. Game over, man. Wow.
Yep. That's just the only word for it. And there's the building. It is Tesla here for Mo.
The fact that he didn't even need to play it until this point and he's already gotten a tower down is so impressive. And now we'll see how he's going to deal with this. Obviously, the Electro Dragon does not fall to a Fireball, which is why it's everywhere in the meta. But a second Princess cycled in and takes that Electro Dragon out of play. And Muhammad Light is going to move on to our our semifinals.
That whole sequence there was so cheeky from Mo.
Yeah.
He fireballed the Electro Dragon, which actually gave him one more shot from the Princess on that left-hand tower, and then gets his way back to a second Tesla. And you can see the shake my head, the shaking my head goblin coming out from Awesome MK, because that's literally all you can do at this point.
And I just love that play that happened earlier. You know, when you're the best in the world, you've got to think 4 or 5 steps ahead. He does miss a fireball there, so actually now giving him a small opportunity, not enough time left, was that he got that Dark Goblin up next to the Princess early on, which made the Fireball come out, right? Fireball then is out of cycle. He knows that's the only spell, and then he goes in hard with the Valkyrie at the bridge, the second late Goblin Barrel, so it makes his opponent pause and wait. And then by the time he makes his decision, the guards go behind instead of in front. Valkyrie gets on tower, and that is just incredible when you watch someone that good pick apart someone like Awesome MK with bait. I mean, this is an 8.5K player that just got handled by Muhammad Light.
Yeah, handled indeed. And man, especially after that first matchup, he felt like maybe, just maybe, someone had Mo's number this time around, but didn't end up happening. Great work by Mo and Julesy and the team there picking those decks. And Mo now goes on to our semifinals. And you know, something that we've gotten pretty used to saying is Mo wins. So we're I think we've said that a lot, and we'll see if we can say it again, because we are waiting a very talented opponent either way.
Yes.
He's either going to be facing against one of the I would say, I put him in the top 10 rookies from this year in Haciel. You know, hasn't quite turned it into the same level of CRL success yet, but he's been very, very good this year. And of course, Wero, who's one of the top 5 all-time ladder players, and as we said before, top-tier bridge spam player. So one of these two, Wero top of your screen, Haciel at the bottom, one of these two will go on to face Muhammad Light in our semifinal.
Yeah, Muhammad Light's still alive. We'll have a chance at Muhammad Light versus Lucas, but right now it is Flippo, or Wero, versus Haciel, and looks like Haciel going to go bait in game number 1. A little bit of a surprise there. Wero, our 45th ranked competitor in the world. We will be seeing him at our last chance qualifier. Excited about that.
So double bait with Inferno Tower for Haciel and Ram Rider Drill for Wero.
Yeah, fascinating here out of Wero, and if you go back and look at his games played, nowhere in sight. So this is something that he was practicing on maybe a different account or something that he dreamt up last night and wanted to bring to competition. We'll see how it fares here.
Yeah, I mean, look, Drill is conceptually, obviously its launch was relatively broken and it dominated the meta. But Drill is a concept, a card that a building that has both offensive and defensive capability is a fascinating building, and I do like the idea of being able to work it in more directions. And of course, it was in every direction beforehand, and maybe that's what Wero's thinking here. Is he has something that can create offensive pressure if it's open, but that can save him defensively if necessary.
Yeah, and that's a great option to have, right? The closest thing you have to something like that, I guess, is probably the Goblin Cage, right? Because it can turn into a great brawler on the ground, but the ability to actually get on tower with the building is one of the coolest things about the Goblin Drill, and I think that's why it's starting to show up more and more now that it is balanced and time has passed enough to where it's like, all right, well, this card used to just win me games. Now it's just another great win condition.
And Latak is saying that Bag ran this last week, which is no surprise here because Bag is the only player who hits create deck and then goes and plays competitive Clash Royale.
And, I mean, honestly, when you look at all the parts of this deck, it has great air defense. You have the Ram Rider to slow those big tower-seeking units down, and the Royal Giant, the Hog Rider, the Balloon. And then, like you said, you have a building that can play defense or offense. I don't hate this deck.
Well, so far, pretty much a stalemate here. 2251 on that top right-hand tower, 2667, although a nice little defensive bit of lightning here high. This is going to give a ton of damage. So you spend 6 to clean up the push, and right behind it, that's the feature of bait.
Yeah, you need that bar barrel ready to go, but wasn't there, and now you see this drill coming down offensively for Wero. Going to get some decent damage in, but that Skarmy comes in, and nothing to deal with the Skarmy. One thing that we haven't called out yet is there's literally no way for Wero to get on top of that Skarmy, because there's also no way that Haciel plays the Skarmy up high and in range of that bar barrel.
Cannon Cart going to do some good work on that Dark Goblin. Go ahead, Andrew.
No, I was just going to say, I thought the Cannon Cart got on tower, but a nice last-second pickup there with the delivery and the Goblins on defense, and Wero just going bridge spam heavy right now.
I mean, look, we're in his wheelhouse, and he's got a slight elixir advantage, actually a serious one now. And this is real danger for Haciel. Wero can just spend and spend and spend. Although those skeletons are going to do some significant damage on that left-hand side.
Yeah, almost evening the towers up here, but now Wero in a significant lead. Lightning comes in. That's a great Lightning. And now I'm sure Haciel is starting to feel the pressure.
Yeah, but Wero's so far down in Elixir right now, Andrew, and you're going to see the Skeleton Barrel's going to pop early, and the Goblin Barrel comes in right behind.
And that is a really, really actually nice defense, but great poison value there for Haciel. 729 to 659.
These two are just trading body blows back and forth. It's been all about, I get the Elixir advantage, now you get it. And so far, no one's had it come to the point where it's a game-over play, but we've seemed very close multiple times.
And that is just a beautiful poison again. Archers go off the board, Goblins get on tower a bit, Prince goes away, and this first cannon cart does stay on its wheels, but the second one going in the wrong lane.
Delivery does it forced out, though, which is really, really good for Wero on this right-hand side. Now you have the Valkyrie playing defense against the Goblin. You know, there's so many defensive options on both sides, and this not going to connect. There's so many defensive options on both sides here that each of them put out what looks like it's the killing blow, and then it just gets saved in the last breath of the moment. And now we're down to the final 10 seconds, and this is going to be down to the wire.
Yeah, I mean, I think another Lightning will come in here. You see that Skarmy cycled early on. The Lightning does come down, and that should actually do it.
And there you have it. Wow. Absolutely crazy. And you look at that, I guess, you know, Haciel was getting the Skarmy down early, but you're not going to lightning block when you have 300 HP on the tower with those little skeletons. So I guess he was trying to block something else. In the end, what a fun back and forth fight. Skarmy, huge factor, but in the end, not enough.
Yeah, the Skarmy there maybe cycled earlier, but or too early to can't block the lightning, and then if the Goblin Drill does come down, half of that Skarmy or even more of that Skarmy disappears. So maybe just looking for that, maybe just trying to cycle a cheap card where it seemed like it would be effective, but Wero holding on, keeping his, you know, his wits about him, ends up stealing that game in the final moments. Great lightning, which was kind of a tough thing for him to do. He found maybe 3 moments to get good lightnings in throughout that game. Otherwise, you know, that one defensive lightning he had, he took a lot of damage for it. And, you know, a big part of that was how Haciel was dropping his troops. Only the Dark Goblin would pass by the Princess Tower. Everything else was dropped much higher.
Yeah, that was fascinating work back and forth. And I see John Sandman, first-time chatter in our Twitch chat, saying, how do I get emotes? Make top 50 in the global tournament.
Yeah.
That's one way to do it. So, you know, just go ahead and get that one done. You can get a really nice emote from that one. Torjubel saying, nice try to lightning block. Well, not with skeletons, not going to happen. I don't know if he had an effective 3-piece block available to him, right? When I'm thinking about that, Andrew, the troops and the HP that they each had, if he had one that could have worked in that situation, or if it was even worth trying in that moment.
Yeah, so let's look at what he has here. He had Skarmy, he had Valkyrie. Yeah, I mean, I guess maybe if he throws a defensive Goblin Barrel, would have been a way to catch the lightning with a Valkyrie. I don't know. It seems really tough. Valkyrie plus Skeleton Barrel plus Royal Delivery, and all of those would have had to have been dropped at the perfect time. Feels pretty near impossible. And then I see someone in the chat here asking, Pandatilla says, hey guys, could you tell me what does EQ mean or log bait mean? So EQ just means earthquake. That's just one of the spells in the game. And then log bait are decks that you see that really kind of demand log as the best response. So that's why you saw the Princess there, the Dark Goblin there, the Goblin Barrel, and the Skarmy. All of those units can be cleaned off the board with log, but if you use log at an inopportune time, you can really be punished. And so it's all about baiting out that log from your opponent and then finding a good moment to punish them.
Classic Prince from Wero to the right-hand side. His turn to go bait. So you're talking about log bait. Here's your answer. Notice that the Goblin Barrel and the Dark Goblin both require bait as a great response. The log was played high. The barrel came down low. Fireball had to come out to pick those up, and now you have Wero with a big elixir advantage. So you just saw a principle of log bait played right there in front of you.
Yeah, and also talking about Princes is just so much value. That Prince was able to hit the Valkyrie, clean it off the board, then take this cannon cart off of its wheels, which is why we see such a massive elixir advantage in Wero's corner. And the Prince is such a strong card in the game when you don't have something really cheap to distract it, like skeletons, like Ice Spirit, or any of the spirits. Prince just gets so much value.
Someone asking in the chat right now, Batmaster Pro, saying, how long have you guys been commentating? Well, we've been the Clash Royale League duo since 2018, and I started doing mixed martial arts commentary back in 2010. So been at it for quite a while. And the two of us been a team here for the entirety of Clash Royale League.
Yeah, really, really long time here. We've spent a lot of time under the lights and on the mics together, man. It's been a lot of fun.
Yes, sir. First minute and a half, minute 40 now has passed, and so far the story has been all Wero all the way. And the Rascals and Prince both playing a key role in this matchup so far, making it so difficult for Haciel to find his way into that second level.
And Haciel looking like he's probably going to be going to Graveyard, is what I would maybe assume with the cards that we're seeing out, unless there's some glaring thing I'm not thinking about, which in return, Wero has a lot of great responses to just in the gang and the Dark Goblin. Oh, and it's Royal Hogs, excuse me.
And Royal Hogs, and really what Haciel, this is an annoying thing for Haciel, right? Because he now has to play essentially fireballs with the Royal Hogs because he wants to have that log on defense. So he has to spend 9 on his Royal Hogs pushes to get past that gang when it's in cycle. That's going to be a pretty big spend here, especially up against a deck as fast as bait.
Yeah, and then you talk about that fireball being used in that aspect or in that way, and then not having it to take these princesses off the board, so you have to overspend up high once they get close enough to the river, which is going to be really difficult to do because those Rascals have really basically only been used to protect princesses.
There you see Rascals now with some pressure on that left-hand lane as well. 2 princesses and a Dark Goblin down. So there's log bait all over the board, and Haciel is stretched really thin as we go into sudden death.
And that log misses the princess, does hit the Dark Goblin, but that is not what he wants. Now to pile up at the bridge to bait out the fireball, but can't spend it there. Again, need it for the barrel, and that's actually a really good call there by Haciel, but Wero just making him play all sorts of uncomfortable.
And look, you see that Vault get some value there with the Dark Goblin and the Princess. Remember, that Princess had been on the board since pretty much last Wednesday. So not really worried about that. At that point, the value's been spent here for Wero, and he's way up here with 994 on Haciel's right-hand tower.
And someone's saying that you need to split the Royal Hogs, but I think the problem with splitting the Royal Hogs is you can drop a Prince in one lane, Rascals in the other, take a little bit of damage, and then there's just so much to deal with. You can assist that Prince with the Goblin Barrel, and you can assist those Rascals with the Goblin Gang, and then it just becomes the story of what you actually take off the board. And now Wero's seeing blood in the water going for that Rocket Cycle.
And here we go, Rascals and Dark Goblin working on that right-hand side, log to clean off. This is a really nice push from Haciel. He has to go all out, and he's going all out right now.
5:14 remains, not enough to just cycle out here with Rockets, so goes in with the Goblin Barrel and baits out that Fireball.
This is what Haciel has to do in triple, is pressure, 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 and not give a real good chance for that Rocket Cycle to keep on coming in. And he's got a lot on the board right now. Cannon Cart does connect. Oh my word! Cannon Cart on the tower.
That is massive. Piggy's getting spawned, and just like that, Wero goes wow, 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 because holy moly, that Mother Witch Cannon Cart combo just stole the game.
Unbelievable.
Wow.
Bait domination the entire way from Wero, and Haciel holds on. And just with getting to the points where he's not quite, but almost in spell cycle range, he did the one thing he had to do, which was pressure, pressure, pressure. Bridge spam is the name of the game for Wero, and that moment Haciel said, you can do that? Well, I can do it too here when it's triple elixir.
That was just immaculate gameplay out of Haciel, recognizing the first rocket comes down. He can't take another rocket plus log. So what do? Like you said, man, just pile up at the bridge, hope something squeezes on through, hope that one of the best players in the world makes a mistake defensively. That's exactly what happened. That was such a great kind of panic button moment for Haciel that ends up paying tenfold as we're going to game number 3.
What an interesting moment there, because you saw the Goblin Gang get played behind the Princess Tower, and that's when that Cannon Cart connected. And I'm really wondering, Viking saying Wero drag glitch. I don't know if there's some reason why he would know that, or just if he's assuming so. But that Goblin Gang behind the King Tower, or behind the Princess Tower, that just opened up the opportunity, and that Cannon Cart snuck right on through.
And someone in the chat here who you guys might recognize, apparently a first-time chatter, Lucas X Gamer CR says, Mother Witch at it again, kill this card. Great to have you in the chat, man. Always love watching you play. Always love commentating on your matches. And yeah, Mother Witch is so freaking broken, man. She gets, the fact that you can turn an entire game that's been one-sided like that, literally in one push, based off of a bad defense, just incredible stuff there. Great play with the Mother Witch, and Wow, just a shocker as Wero looks like he's running it back. He wants revenge for that game that felt like he should have had.
And Viking in the chat now saying he's Wero's analyst and coach, so maybe he would know if there was a drag glitch there, and that might explain why you saw a Goblin Gang come out late and low.
Just feed that Mother Witch. So Wero going right back to the well, and his opponent has some good responses with arrows and, of course, that Royal Delivery. Earthquake not going to get a lot of value in this matchup other than on top of that Gang.
Well, and that's but the Gang is one of the best counters to the Hog here, so that's actually going to be a nice little 1-2 punch for Haciel to try to get some damage on tower. So it's going to be the Prince as the response to the Hog, which you're going to see is going to give some action here for Haciel on tower. This is going to be a really interesting matchup. Oh, and the Prince doesn't turn.
Wow.
Absolutely rough moment here for Haciel.
Yeah, that is not what you want early on as a Prince connection, bringing that tower down to 1558 already. Arrows are in cycle for that Gang, but now not there for the Goblin Gang, or excuse me, the Barrel, not there for the Gang or the Princess.
That Princess will work pretty heavily on that left-hand side as a high bomb tower has to come out to deal with it.
Yeah, not an ideal -1 trade there, and now we can see Wero just set up his push from the back.
Tony Jazz with a question we should talk about during the break, or during our next break between matches. So keep this one locked and loaded, guys. Ask it again when we're in between games. Do you think we need a new big spell? Been a while. So let's wait after this match. We'll talk about it.
So delivery is perfectly timed delivery there from Haciel, mitigating 100% of the damage, which is exactly what you need to do in this matchup. That way you can have your arrows available on the other side of the board.
Mm-hmm. That's a difficult one to do. You pretty much have to be hovering. You can't really react to that and pick it up. So he has to be really waiting for that barrel and see this one I don't think is going to get there in time. And boom, that's a ton of damage.
Yeah, nothing comes in. No arrows, no barrel. Hog Rider behind trying to create some offense. That Hog will get some decent damage. Gets one swing with that Earthquake. But trouble here for Haciel.
He has to delivery high here to control the Prince, and he does, but that's a nice clean log. Going to force out more responses here. Elixir advantage right now for Wero, and he takes that advantage with the Rocket Cycle to get that right-hand tower down. He should have plenty to defend here. Hog trying to sneak on through. Ooh, EQ might do it. Oh, we are going to go to sudden death overtime, folks. Haciel pushes, and here we go.
You love to see the last-second tower take here. Wero taking that Elixir advantage, getting 6 on the board, 3 in the form of a Dark Goblin, 3 in the form of a Princess, and then he goes Rascals plus Barrel. Hyper-aggressive here, and Haciel defends beautifully.
Does have the Firecracker still on the board. Log won't take it all the way off. And Princess, though, does retarget because the Princess Tower takes down the troop in front. So nice work here and a good moment for Wero, who does have the lead as we go into our final 90.
Nice pull there with the Spear Goblins to reset the Prince's charge. Gets that Hog Rider on tower for a little bit of damage. That Firecracker going to get some great value. Damage on tower, cleans up the Dark Goblin, and now distracts the Prince's charge. Dark Prince comes down right up front. Love to see it.
Firecracker an absolute menace right now in this matchup, 16:55 to 13:21 with a little over 60 seconds left as the Rascals come into the pocket.
And that was a great Spear Goblin surround. Delivery comes down just in time, and I don't know how Haciel's defending this. I mean, I guess he really isn't anymore, but he was doing a great job there for a minute.
He was just staying alive. That was the name of the game, was stay alive, because we saw what I did at the end of our regulation period. Hog and EQ in. Does he have the answer here against these Goblin Barrel? And has to go ahead and spend troops. Princess doing her job right now, 5:34. Things getting very tight here for Haciel.
Yeah, Rocket cannot come in yet as we see Haciel go down with this Hog Rider. Nice arrows to clean up that Goblin Gang. Hog should get a couple hits here, man. And the Firecracker behind with the splash damage.
Huge arrows, but he's a little bit late. No, does get the delivery down in time. Does this, oh my word,
oh,
the Princess does splash on tower.
Rocket's got to come down. There it is. Oh my god. That was such a great best of 3, man.
What a crazy matchup that was between Wero and Haciel. Haciel was in a real tough spot there. Nearly pulled it out against Wero. Wero able to get just that one little bit of touch he needed, that Princess splash to get on tower and get that in rocket range. What a game, folks. Let's get some love in the chat for both sides of what so far been the match of the day.
Yeah, that was some beautiful stuff out of both of these competitors. Wero ends up coming back in game number 3 after dropping that second game based off of a very, very odd Mother Witch interaction later on, but that's why she's so good. That's why you need to have Fireball to take her out of play. She can turn a match on the dime, and Wero comes back in game number 3. Great bait play there, and a lot of fun out of Haciel with that Hog EQ cycle, just one step behind.
Yeah, that's so much fun. And the one thing Haciel did great there that really is what made that game so tight was he was phenomenal with those royal deliveries, keeping things tight,
Yes.
able to get that defense. And that's hard to do. That is not easy to do and do well in a matchup that gets as crazy with how much bait there was on that board. So let's go ahead right now, Andrew, and take a look at the bracket and see Wero moving on to what's going to be one crazy semifinal. Wero versus Mohamed Light on one side, and then Lord Stan mixing it up with 3 of the greats as he faces off first against Lucas in our other semi.
What a great weekend here for us and for Lord Stan. I mean, how cool is that? We're down from 500 players to 4. 3 of them are some of the best in the world. 2 of them are literally the top 2 players in the world. Wero not far behind, and Lord Stanlian amongst the greats here, still looking to dominate the matchup that he has against Lucas, which is going to be very, very tough. You talk about Lucas and Mo and how they've played. They have been lights out all through this weekend, but so have Wero and Lord Stan. Lord Stan has not lost a set yet. This is going to be a fun Final Four.
And there's, who knows, whatever matchup we get is going to be fun for the end, but it's very possible we end up with yet another Lucas versus Mo matchup, which is basically becoming what competitive Clash Royale is. It has been Lucas versus Mo. And first up, though, Lucas would have to get past, or we are going to have a third-place match fall to Lord Stan. So we'll see that coming up next here in just a couple of moments. And man, if you're Lord Stan, this is one of those moments you've been waiting for.
Yeah.
You're like, I get a shot at Lucas, maybe get a shot at this weekly championship. I'm going to be playing Lucas, and then either Wero or Mo Light next, no matter what happens. This is the kind of thing you dream about when you're first playing competitive Clash.
100%. I mean, we've seen it in all the other professional sports. I mean, I think basketball when Jordan was playing was one of the most iconic moments of all time. If you talk about all the great players out there that never got that ring because of Jordan, well, when you talk about Lucas and Mohamed Light, it is that exact same conversation. But who's going to be the Jordan? Who's going to be the Stockton? A lot of years left in their careers to find out, but I am so excited for even the potential of seeing that matchup again. And then honestly, what we've seen out of Wero and Lord Stan, this could be going to either of them just as easily, and they've been doing it with a lot of different decks. I love what we saw there out of Wero. What's so crazy about Wero is he doesn't have to play bridge spam, and it still feels like you're getting bridge spam because he knows just when he's got that great elixir advantage, and he really punishes you for it. We saw it in that bait deck, we've seen it in the Ram Rider decks, and I'm excited to see it in his next set. But first, let's go to CMG Lucas versus Lord Stanlian, a relative unknown going up against number 2 in the world.
This is going to be a whole lot of fun. And to continue your analogy, Andrew, some people are going to be the Jordan, some are going to be the Stockton to go with like our age of basketball. Right. Now if you don't win a championship, you just join the team that beat you. But there are going to be, and some guys might be Rex Chapman, #BlockerCharge, and they get to mix it up with the greats and still have a fun career. So who knows which one Lord Stan will be in the end, but right now he's got a big out in front of him in Lucas, who... Why is bait suddenly the meta of the day?
It's just here. It's just here, and it's here to stay. You got Barrel, you got Goblin Barrel, Skeleton Barrel, you got Dark Goblin. I don't know if we'll have Princess as well, but, coming out in game number 1 with Heavy Bait 2 is very, very interesting because every card is still available, but Lucas feeling it here.
That's one of the interesting things. One debate on how you might buff Drill without having to add a Goblin back is potentially buffing the Goblins. And if you buff the Goblins, that makes Goblin Barrel so much stronger. So it's one of those things where the way cards tied together make balance such a challenging thing to do from a development perspective.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the reasons why Three Musketeers have been the hardest card to balance. It feels like forever in this game. And I see someone asking, is CMG Lucas X Gamer? Is it all the same guy? Yes, it is. This is Lucas from Brazil. It's Pain Lucas, CMG Lucas X Gamer. He's probably the only
Lucas with the good hair?
Yeah, Lucas with the good hair.
1620 right-hand side here for Lucas so far, with 15 seconds left before double elixir time, and he does have the lead. Lightning interesting here because Lightning is not great against most of the targets except for what might be the most important target on the board for Lord Stan in that Inferno Tower.
Yeah, if he's able to get a Lightning on top of a Valkyrie and an Inferno, that is just great value for him. And, you know, this deck that Lord Stan is running, we've seen versions of this in the past where it's a basic, very, very strong control deck that looks like it should be Splash Yard or Graveyard, but then instead of Graveyard, you throw in Royal Giant, because it is still kind of the same idea, right? Build a massive counter push, and instead of throwing the Graveyard on the back end, you just throw the Royal Giant in front of your counter push. So we'll see if Lord Stan is able to do that. He's going to have to play some really efficient defenses here against a relentless Lucas.
Dark Goblin right-hand side, big-time push, and Barbarrel trying to predict that Inferno Tower, and it does. It gets in nice and deep, but still plenty of DPS on the RG either way. So the Barbarrel getting in deep and not quite reaching that tower doesn't do much here for Lord Stan.
Kaiser Soze saying there's another pro Lucas, though, isn't there? Yes, there's Lucas GSM out of Portugal. That is another popular Lucas.
There is some irony there that they're both Portuguese speakers, with CMG Lucas being Brazilian and Lucas GSM being Portuguese.
And Royal Giant up front here. Stan looking for his opportunity. Barbarrel comes in just a step late so that the RG does get targeted by the Inferno, and that push is going to completely die on the Vine here. Maybe high Skellies. Yes, there they are.
Yeah, this is one of those things where for Lord Stan, he has to figure out, he's been playing from the front here. He needs to put RG in the back now that we're in double, close to triple, and get an opportunity to play through the other side when he has Lightning in hand. Right now, he's trying to pick up that Inferno Tower with Barbarrel, but that Inferno Tower is too low for the Barbarrel to be truly impactful. So he has to find another solution.
And it's just really tough because the pressure that Lucas is bringing in is making it so that Stan can never really sequence the offense that he likes, because now that he has a push coming in, he doesn't have the elixir for the Lightning. So Lightning going to come in late, maybe, but by the time he's got the elixir for it, you see the RG's already off the board. And you got to credit Lucas for making that happen. The reason why those aren't coming in is he's doing a great job with these tricky barrels, and he is being relentless with his pressure.
Yeah, you know what? If I'm Lord Stan, don't put an RG in front of this. Yeah, there you go. He goes behind, gets a little bit more in front. That's actually has the potential to be more useful. And the RG now going to get some shots, Mega Minion helping, but not going to get on tower still. So I like the change in sequencing there out of Lord Stan, but again, he can't get this Lightning involved on offense.
Yeah, trying something a bit different there is definitely the better idea than continuing with the same thing that isn't working. I'm just wondering if it might be a little bit late. I still think you're right, man. I still think he should have went with an RG in the back at least one time. It's just I don't know if he would have known how to defend had he not played so much up high. Then by the time the RG crosses the bridge, all the other defensive units are dead, and that's tower down.
And that's just relentless. That's just insane and relentless. And it's a tough spot for Lord Stan no matter what, right? You're up against a deck that outcycles a lot of the appropriate defenses for the cards you're dealing with. And then on top of that, Inferno Tower for your RG. So a lot of challenges there for Lord Stan. Another option there would have been to sequence to get something down. You can't go until 10. You get something down cheap and tank some of that damage early, but still able to take off some of that bait stuff. Get the RG behind tower, but when you're at 10 and able to get that maybe a baby dragon down with it, it's just hard to do. We can talk about it and say that it's the thing to do, but sometimes that thing that you need to do, there isn't an opening to actually do it.
Yeah, and I don't know if there was ever a King Tower activation that happened. I think a lot of those NATOs were played to pull the units together because the barrel was also coming in at the same time, which is a really great move by Lucas as well, making it so that King Tower activation isn't an easy pull with a tornado on top of the barrel because you have the skeleton barrel to also deal with. So making his opponent overspend over and over. Then you talk about the cost of these decks. One cost 4 elixir, an average cost. The other one was 3.3 in Lucas's, so a lot faster. Then you talk about that 4-card cycle. It's 2 elixir cheaper for Lucas. So just not able to keep up with the cycle. And Rich, the way that you keep up with the cycle is cycling that RG in the back, finding a moment to take damage, and then really building the push that you wanted, because he only built pushes out of sequence, which is why we always saw that Inferno getting so much value on the RG.
Well, he thought, and he probably got to that idea a little bit too late, where he went through for a few pushes and thought, maybe I can get the Inferno Tower with the barrel. People play his Inferno Tower so little as of late that maybe you think about how Inferno Tower might be more valuable against Tesla. But, this Barbarrel more valuable against Tesla. But especially if they're not playing that Inferno Tower high and you can't actually put a shot onto that Inferno Tower, Bar Barrel's not going to open up that much room for you for that Royal Giant. So, yeah, just a lot of hard things there. Really great call from Lucas's whole team, and now Lord Stan finds himself down 1.
Yeah, he needed to make sure that he got that Bar Barrel in before the RG crossed the river and then had the Elixir to get the Lightning in, because like you're saying, that Bar Barrel is not going to clean up the Inferno. You don't want it to retarget on the RG, which it's going to do. So wait, cycle from the back, Bar Barrel up high, Lightning on the building, and then you get to go on offense. But it is a lot easier to say than it is to execute against someone like Lucas, who is just relentless. And then someone in the chat here saying, I lost who it was, but they were saying, oh yeah, Lil Sweet then saying Skeleton Barrel is such a good card. I love Skeleton Barrel. I still to this day think it's one of the most fascinating cards in the game. Its ability to tank for a tank, and then the tank tanking for the skeletons after it drops, and then when you see it played right with double bait, with a Skeleton Barrel up front and a Goblin Barrel on the back end, when that's timed correctly, as you saw, a great player in Lord Stan just not able to deal with it.
You see the look on my face here, Andrew. I lose this Skeleton Barrel quite a lot. It's just one of those things that just like gets me quite often. So yes, you're absolutely right. Skeleton Barrel, pretty fantastic. I do see some questions. Joker MKY saying, is it ending today or is finals tomorrow? This is gonna be the finals today of this weekend's qualifier.
Yep.
And then of course next weekend we are off for the Clash Royale League Last Chance qualifier, which Andrew and I will both be there for alongside AC and EB7. And then we're back again here, or I'm back again here with Eric Benamou 2 weeks from now for the Last Chance qualifier of Royale Masters that anyone watching can play in. Hit ! Discord or command Discord in the Twitch chat. You can find out all the information right there.
So here we go. Lucas going to Mega Minion plus Wall Breakers here, so having good responses to stuff in the skies and good single target DPS in that Mega.
Samo is dead, asking if we know who the oldest player is in the top 32 for CRL standings, and I think it's Elsiop.
Yeah, who's like,
in the
what,
chat
22
there.
now or something?
Elsiop? I mean, I think Elsiop might be like... I think Elsiop's like 25 or 26. I feel like he's like a full-on grown-up. I think he can run a car, Andrew.
Can hold that over all the rest of the competitors at World Finals since they're all like 19.
There'll be a few people at that minimum age 16 mixed in there, including our presumptive, our number 1 seed, who might turn 17 and before it happens. I'm not entirely sure. I think he does, actually. So Lucas going minor Wall Breakers, Bomb Tower variation, which this is going to be nice against this Graveyard deck with both Poison and Bomb Tower.
Yeah, and also having the Dark Prince in there. A lot of times when you see Wall Breakers with Bomb Tower, it usually goes to Knight, but the Dark Prince is going to be a great response to all of those splashy troops, even if he has to play it for the Graveyard, which hopefully for him he does not. He's going to need that Dark Prince up high a lot to deal with that NK.
Not going to love having to play the Bomb Tower for the Mega Minion, but if he is playing Skeletons, keep an eye out here for a potential King Tower activation. And he's not, so going to have to go and hold on here with the Cannon Cart.
Nice placement on the Cannon Cart there to let that bomb help out with the MK, and now stays very healthy in case anything else wants to come in to make his opponent pause for just a moment.
And think of how good you must be feeling about your situation where you're playing against Graveyard and you go ahead and play Poison on offense.
Yeah, right? That's just confidence right there. And it's because he has a great way to set the line with his Dark Prince, and he still has that Cannon Cart that he can play back behind to take care of the Skeletons, and then in turn still tank if he needs it. That's a great miner just to the back, makes that NK turn around. Doesn't leap, but just turns around. Now that Dark Prince can work on that Brawler.
Yeah, forced that cage out, which is really, really nice. And now Cannon Cart going to tank here on the right-hand side. Wallbreaker's trying to sneak right on through, and they're going to get a double connection.
Wow. And there we go. This is exactly what we're talking about. Dark Prince up high to catch the MK. Cannon Cart down low to help clean up the Skeletons. Yes, good damage does come in, but now Lucas should have a decent counter push, but he actually ended up taking more damage on both sides than I think he wanted to.
Yeah, the MK was tanking for the Princess Tower. Caught it just a half step late, and that's a big difference maker in terms of how well you defend that Graveyard. So just like that, a lot of that lead evaporates. 14:03. is the number on the left-hand side, and Lucas has put 1065. Things are going to get a little bit dicey as we get into triple elixir.
Yeah, Lucas lucky that MK didn't leap in front of those 2 units on the ground in the Brawler and the Fish Boy. Makes this defense just a little bit easier to put together. But you talk about a defensive poison plus a cannon cart coming down. That's 9 elixir spent, and a fireball comes in for good value there by Lord Stan. And while Lucas is in the lead right now, Rich, this might be the last moment that he is in this game. He's going to have to change things up.
Yeah, I mean, you see that he has to use poison on defense now, and that's a huge difference in this matchup, because now Lord Stan is going to be pretty much using fireballs on offense, and Lucas is going to be pretty much using poisons on defense, or it feels like he might have to, and now you're going to see him overkill on this defense here with the Dark Prince and the cannon cart, and it all goes down way in the backfield.
Yeah, great job there by Lord Stan, waiting for the Dark Prince's shield to come off before sending in that fireball. Great patience shown by him there. And now another MK comes down, and as you can see, Lucas in the lead once again because of that poison, but all this red on the board. Graveyard plus MK coming in. Nice wall breakers there. That Graveyard could be a little aggressive.
Yeah, a little bit. You see the cannon cart and the Mega Minion both doing their job nicely, and that only gives 1 shot from the skeletons, and now that opens up a lot of opportunities for these poisons on offense. So Lucas doing a good job putting together nice defensive sequences as we go into our final 25.
4:57 remaining. Top left-hand side to 7:43. Graveyard coming in once again. Early log with plus Mega Minion. No poison there to clean up, and a great job by Lucas setting the line up high.
1 HP lead does go away now. Lord Stan has that poison on his tower, has to defend against wall breakers. Wall breakers going in right now for Lucas. Snowball on defense for Lord Stan. Graveyard trying to do it. Fireball trying to help out. Not going to happen. GG. Well played. 12-217 to 105. Lucas holds on for the win.
And what a great run by Lord Stan, who, honestly, if he beat Lucas here in this set too, what an incredible weekend it would have been, but already still so much to accomplish. And you know what? Losing to Lucas in the semifinals of Royale Masters, it's got to feel pretty dang good. Obviously, you want to win the whole thing. You want to take home the whole cash prize. You want the points. But considering that you and I had never heard of him before yesterday, and the fact that he went to our top 4 against this group, hats off to him, man. Congratulations on a great run.
Yeah, and still a chance for number 3, right? We do have a third-place matchup. Now, he's going to be up against either Wero or Mo, so, welcome to the big league, son. But he has a chance at third place still, so a great run here so far. Lucas with doing a really good job. It was that situation where he wanted to get poison back on offense. He knew he was going to lose if he couldn't get poison on offense. He made the adjustments and got it done. So we're going to be seeing him in the finals. We'll have our other semifinal here. Going to be between Mohammed Light and Wero in just a moment. Don't go anywhere. We will be right back.
She was blind, always love on her mind. Just come my way. She couldn't quite figure out what fear's all about, so she put it aside all night, all day. And everybody talked about her. Said there must be something wrong with this girl. All she said to them was live your life just like you're young again. No, don't you cry. Just get back up again, 'cause if you wanna laugh, then live it better. If you want love, then stay together. If you wanna smile, then be forever young again. And nobody can make her feel down.
And welcome back, everybody, to our second semifinal. We are down to our final 3 matches of the day. We'll decide not only who takes home the big prize of $2,400, but also who gets those big points to go towards our playoff championship.
Yep, and whoever gets first place this weekend will be making it on through to our playoffs. And the 3 that remain are Wero, Lucas, and Mohamed Light, with Lord Stanley waiting in the wings to see who's going to be facing off against in that 3rd place matchup. Still a lot of points to be had. I believe it's 15, 12, and then maybe 8 or something like that for 3rd place. So 15, 12, 10, and 8 for 1 through 4. So talking about that 15 points for first place, that's a lot that you can get in getting you to those playoffs. That'll be happening in just a few weeks. But now let's hop into our last semifinal matchup between Wero and number 1 in the world, Mohamed Light.
Yeah, I'm pumped for this one.
Me too,
this
man.
Is 2 top tier players who I don't remember seeing match up against each other outside of ladder in a full-on competitive match. So we'll see. I mean, Wero obviously, I'd say that Wero is historically the better ladder player than Mo, even though Mo is a top tier ladder player. Don't hate me. But the question is, can Wero hang with Mo in competitive Clash Royale?
We'll find out right now, because Wero's going to find himself in a tough matchup here. As you see, Arrows coming out on top of that Firecracker. Miner does come out from Mo to mitigate some of the damage from that Hog Rider, as he doesn't want to lose that right-hand tower. But this is going to be really tough. Firecracker and Tesla out of cycle, but Delivery is here to at least help.
Yeah, that's actually a really critical delivery, the Tesla delivery. This variation from Wero is what he needed, right? He has the Electro Spirit, the delivery, and the Tesla. Firecracker, the arrow's going to make that a real nightmare for him the whole way through, and the question is how often can he deal with the Flying Machine, especially as time goes late. But of all the bad ways this matchup could go, this is not one of the worst ones.
Yeah, I'm actually really curious if this is going to be the new kind of Hog EQ deck of the meta, just because there is so much Lava Miner Guards out there. There is so much Royal Hogs. This does seem like a really great way to help. And also, this deck can struggle against Graveyards sometimes, and having that extra tank or the ability to clean up all the skeletons with the Each Spirit or the Delivery or the Earthquake or the Log makes it match up just a bit better. So here we go, Wero in the lead as we're about to get into Double Elixir.
And let's see, Lucas in the chat saying this matchup can go either way. Play that versus Light, and we both won on both sides.
I bet you I could have beaten you with it, Lucas.
Yeah, totally. I'd take Andrew in that one, too. No questions. I got my brother's back. Who cares if you've won things?
Yeah, right? So Arrow's going to come out here for Mo. Nice high Tesla to catch and take care of that Flying Machine. Mega Minion down just a step late. Flying Machine still off the board. And a good delivery here.
And Wero has to eat all that Brawler damage on the right because he has to defend effectively on the left. So you see that. Just did not want to spend. There's an argument that maybe he should have spent a little bit there to mitigate some of that, but then he wouldn't have this push on the right-hand side.
That was a really, really nice set of pre-guards that came down from Mo. Demands the Earthquake Log out to take him off, and then the Brawler comes down late. Really, really nicely played. And then this Brawler does need to be paid attention to this time around.
The way Wero just kited that Flying Machine was actually next level. The Vault comes out to hold, the Tesla comes out to help, but I just don't know if he can do anything here. Delivery comes down a half step early, and that might be the GG right there, and it is.
Really, really well played there by Wero, who plays through a pretty tough matchup. Now, it does sound like Lucas said it can go either way, but it's got to be really tough to get on top of those Flying Machines and the pups. I think the thing that was actually the most surprising in this game was the mistimed deliveries. I think we saw 2 of them that were mistimed out of Wero, and maybe that was just nerves coming in. But that last one was actually, probably the most glaring of them, because it was the tower take. It was so late, and he would have been able to stay alive had he just defended that a bit better.
Yeah, that's a tough one there. I mean, you're trying to get things in time and get your cycle around to the next point. But that's one of the things about this deck is, again, Hog EQ is a slightly more defensive deck than you think of with like 2.6 or older school versions of Hog Cycle, especially this variant. So, the early delivery certainly did not help. Lucas knows better than I do. He says it's 50-50. I would say that for most players, it feels like that would at least be 60-40 towards the Lava Hound matchup. But with the arrows being in there, but Lucas would certainly, I'll defer to him on how that matchup should go.
Yeah, I mean, he definitely plays the game at a much higher level than we do, so probably lower on ladder, because that is a thing, right? When you look at matchups on ladder, lower ladder tier, 5, 6K, those matchups will be radically different than they will be at 7, 8, and close to 9K. So it makes sense that Lucas would see that at 50-50, because a lot of people out there that are at that top 1% are going to have those deliveries perfectly timed. They're going to have that cycle of the firecracker early on, so you can get 2 down on the board, and then all about that Tesla placement, right? Because those Teslas have to be used as more unit seeking than it is about just defending the Lava Hound. So you saw a lot of times in that last matchup looking for that flying machine, looking for other units behind, as opposed to just defending the lava.
Just defending the lava is certainly not going to be enough. And look, there were some great moves there put down by Wero, and that I called out that Valk that pulled the brawler on one side and helped kite the flying machine. And it was right after that we saw the delivery coming in early. So those two early deliveries were certainly a challenge there. And he put good pressure on the opposite lane. But now you lose a matchup where you misplayed a couple times. And makes you wonder about the mentality going into game number 2.
Yeah, and you never want to be down any games going up against Mohamed Light, and it looks like Wero might be going right to what Mo just won with, as we see this Goblin Cage cycled out early, and usually that does go to the skies, but we'll see. Brawler has been in a lot of different places, and with a Knight in the back, a little different.
Yeah, don't think we're going to be going to Lava Hound here out of Wero now with the Knight, but looking more like Graveyard at this stage. Ram Rider to the left-hand side for Mo's going to go with a spam variation against the Bridge Spam Master.
Yeah, look at that. Ram Rider just coasts right on through, gets that big connection on the tower. This cannon cart has just enough HP, but it'll be an easy defense. And, wow, okay, almost not. Last second, he was there, and then this Mother Witch getting a ton of value, man.
And not enough elixir for Wero to back up against the Mother Witch, right? So you go real hyper-aggressive there, and you don't have the elixir to actually support the push correctly, and here's what you're going to get. A ton of damage on your tower.
This is, sad for me to watch, because Wero is going to take so much damage here, and now he's down in elixir.
Yeah, that was
perfect from Mo.
That's why, I remember in one of our first seasons of CRL, I don't know if it was the first season or that spring season in 2019, but I was talking about Splash Yard with somebody, and it might have been Elke or one of the coaches, who was just like, just don't play Graveyard in single.
Yeah.
That's, you can, and pros might occasionally. On balance, just don't do it. And you saw there, didn't need to go for that, support that cannon cart, and we've ended up with 48 HP on his left-hand tower. Yeah,
the snowball out of Wero there was really, really tough when you consider one of the things that could have kind of been a bit of a saving grace that he would have had defensively. Instead, he uses it early, and just tough here, man. You look at where he's already at here. Momo just happy to cycle this P.E.K.K.A in the back, opposite lane. 48 HP remains on that tower, and this is what, and a missed fireball. So Wero just tilted. He calls the good game again, and it's crazy when you see someone as good as Wero just get completely manhandled by Mo.
Well, Wero's really, really good, but Wero's never been known as a competitive player. He's a ladder he's a ladder king. He's a great bridge spam player, but no one, there's some coaches who've tried to work him into being a great competitive player, but so far we've only seen him be a good competitive player. And now we're going to get Mohamed Light moving on.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you this, right? We're going to have a fun third place match here between Lord Stan and Wero in a couple of moments for a little bit of cash and a little bit of points. But what we're going to get, more importantly, is once again the number 1 and number 2 players on the planet going head-to-head for a weekly championship.
Yeah, I mean, this is as hype as it gets here at Royale Masters. You talk about CRL being, the number 1 competitive scene for all of Clash Royale, and when you talk about the top 2 guys in the world getting to face off here in this event, this is as good as it gets. I mean, this is the matchup that you are praying for at World Finals. This is the matchup that you're praying for anytime you hear that Mohamed Light and Lucas are in a matchup or in a tournament together, and we're going to get it in our Royale Masters Finals. And you know that these guys want to win this just as bad as World Finals because they love to have bragging rights over one another.
And you know what? I can see Lucas in the chat right now on Twitch saying, "Oh well, tell Mo to relax, maybe sleep a little bit." Lucas just being like, "Hey Mo, go take it easy." Well, if there's one player who could motivate Mohamed Light in the middle of the night to overcome feeling sick and make sure it happens, it's the one he'll be staring across from in our final. But, of course, that final going to be in a little while. First, we have some third-place business to take care of, points and money on the line, and Lord Stan for a shot at redemption, and no shade on Wero here, but the shot that he wanted. This is the guy you do not want to be playing for that third-place spot against Mohamed Light in the situation. You want to be against Wero, and this probably got the matchup that he wanted.
Yeah, and luckily for Lord Stan as well, obviously both of them coming off of losses, both of them coming off of 0-2 losses, but I think there was maybe just a little bit more expected out of Wero in that last set that we just saw, and I bet he's feeling just a bit tilted, right? You talk about the matchups that he ran into, you talk about the early deliveries, the missed fireballs. It did seem like nerves were getting to Wero just a bit, and now maybe some resignation might be coming out of Wero as he's not going to be able to get that number 1 or 2 spot. Who knows, though? He's played a lot of ladder, and if you guys know, if you're good at ladder, you deal with a lot of losses along getting to that top 10, top 5, top 20, whatever it is. So Wero may be really great at resetting here mentally, and he's going to need to do it against Lord Stan.
Yeah, easier said than done. You and I both know. We talk about off stream a fair bit, our tilt tendencies.
Yeah. And
everyone has their own ways of dealing with it. Me, when I start tilting, I just stop playing. I just walk away. Like if I lose two or three in a row, or more importantly, if I lose one that I hate losing, I just close the app and walk away. So you can't do that in the situation. They have to come back out and win.
Yeah, I mean, this is years into the past, but I still remember, I believe the seeding tournament with So King. Does that sound right? At the first World Finals.
Yeah.
And I remember him playing, and that was one of the times that you see a guy that is already a very emotional player when he's winning and when he's losing, and that was one of the hardest tilts I think I've ever seen in competitive Clash Royale, because after games 1 and 2, it felt like he just didn't even want to be there, but you have to keep playing through. And so I guess we'll see who resets better here between Lord Stan and between Wero.
Man, I mean, going back to that moment, you and I saw there's so many things from that first CRL World Finals seeding tournament that stand out, right? One of those being So King and the rough go he had of it, and how that ended up leaving him tilted for pretty much the rest of the weekend, that he didn't perform well at the actual World Finals after how tough that outing was. On the flip side, you and I saw the God RF, who was not the anticipated person to be put in by Immortals into that seeding tournament, and trainer Luis and I put in him instead of Royal, because Royal's tiltable and the God RF is stone cold. So you put a non-tiltable person in that moment. And then, of course, the other big storyline from that moment for us was that breakout moment for Javi Catorce, who we knew had carried Vivo Keyed in CRL LATAM, but he went and ran the table pretty much at that seeding tournament. And that was when we went, the first time you and I both went, whoa, who is that guy?
Who is this kid?
Yeah, you can trace back to that moment, and so much insane Clash Royale talent and so many insane storylines all together in that one tournament.
So here we go. Wero looking like he's going to at least one spawner building. We'll see if he decides to bust out the other one. And it looks like a note here from our producers. If Wero wins this match, he will lock in the number 1 seed for playoffs.
Whoa,
good for him.
That would be pretty wild.
Yeah, I guess it makes sense, right? Lucas was eliminated in round 1, I think, last weekend, and Mohamed Light hasn't made it to a playoffs here on the weekends yet. And I think Wero's made all 3.
So you don't have to win to get those big spots here, folks. And, of course, number 1 seed in playoffs would be nice, because he'll probably face against somebody who makes it through in the last chance qualifier, most likely based off of points. But, we'll find out. And Viking saying that Wero's already number 1 because top 8 was enough. So, I don't know if we'll choose either Wero's coach is the right one or the producers of the show are correct. One of those two have it right.
So looking like maybe not going to both buildings. Oh, there it is. Just the caster curse coming and hitting you in the face. Goblin Hut comes down, going up against Royal Hog's Earthquake Mortar here out of Lord Stan. And if Wero wasn't tilted yet, this could definitely do it running into this matchup.
Now, Andrew, that we brought it up, I can't stop thinking about that seeding tournament in 2018. First time seeing LCOP in the mix, watching all the players run from table to table with notepads, taking actual physical notes on the gameplay of everybody that they were watching. It was one of the coolest things we've gotten to do. Is the World Finals have been great, but that seeding tournament specifically was one of the most fun things I remember you and I doing together.
Yeah, it felt like. I don't know, like maybe like what it was like when the stock market was invented and a bunch of people just in a room scrambling, running around, going like, this guy's really good and this guy's up a set. And which TV's on what? You know, like it was like running around with your heads cut off, but it was so much freaking fun. And yeah, you talk about the introduction to so much international talent you and I had not known yet. And yeah, that was definitely one of my fondest memories of CR.
EQ on the right-hand side takes care of business with that furnace. We have not seen a ton of furnace today, although we have seen it specifically in double spawner, and second time seeing double spawner today. It's 0-1 so far, and here against, I believe, almost the exact same matchup with Royal Hogs and EQ. The question is, can Lord Stan perform as well against double spawner with this deck as Lucas?
Yeah, it's going to be really, really tough for him to play through this. You know, talking about that Earthquake, I mean, the fact that he does have a lead right now is fine, as there's still 2 minutes left here in overtime. And this is where Lord Stan can kind of control the game and exactly send in the Royal Hogs for some offense.
But he's going same lane every time with Mega Knight in cycle, right? So you have to find some other solution. I don't think Mega Knight was in that other version of it. I think that was a big key difference with that version that we saw earlier. In fact, I can go look at what the deck was that we saw Lucas play, but I believe there was no MK in that one.
Yeah, I think you might be right here, and definitely beating the cycle of the MK is Lord Stan, but a nice Bar Barrel plus Fireball here out of Wero, as Wero gets a really, really nice push coming down this right-hand lane. Mother Witch plus regular Witch plus double spawners. We saw this a couple times yesterday, and like you said, we already saw it earlier today, and I see the nodding of the head. Was there no MK in the other matchup?
There was no MK. It was, excuse me, it was Flying Machine, Zappies, and Royal Recruits. So no MK in that other one. So that's a pretty big difference in terms of that matchup.
Yeah, and so it makes it so even though he does have Earthquake here out of Lord Stan, it does make his getting on offense that much more difficult. There are so many responses there, and that is a straight missed Fireball by Wero. Takes one pig out of play, the other three go right to the Goblin Hut, and that was kind of the saving grace moment that Lord Stan needed to come back right into this game.
And now MK out of cycle, so this is really interesting because look at this, pig's gonna go in immediately with the high furnace to hold.
Yeah, Fireball out of cycle once again, and you can see Lord Stan trying to get all the way back around. 20 seconds remain, cycled Earthquake comes in, and there should be one more Royal Hog send. There it is, and luckily for him, this cannon cart stays on its wheels.
Yeah, that cannon cart just won't stop. That cannon cart was like, hey, you know what cannon carts do? We just shoot until you kill us. And that cannon cart's still the same cannon cart on the board. Fireball to the right-hand side, you keep to the left. Doesn't matter. GG, well played. Wero takes game number 1.
Yeah, you talk about what looked like a bad matchup there for a moment, but then Fireball being the 8th card out, along with the Bar Barrel just a couple of cards before that, and then obviously the MK being in there. A lot of really, really great responses here for Wero. It looked like for a moment there, Lord Stan might find himself in a favorable matchup, having EQ against Double Spawner, but Double Spawner with MK Fireball makes that a completely different story.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely, right? Royal Recruits versus Mega Knight when it comes to Royal Hogs. That's a pretty significant difference, and overall, still, Stan nearly got that one to be competitive there at the end, but I don't think Wero ever really felt super out of sorts. So game number 1 does go to Wero, who now is 1 away from securing 3rd place and putting on some significant points, although what we're being told by his coach in the chat is that he doesn't need any more.
Yeah.
So either way, still doing a pretty good job, and of course, if you're his coach, a little extra cash here probably wouldn't hurt.
Yeah, maybe you get a little chunk of that change. Always fun there. And here looking at Lord Stan's player profile, he's got an 8.1K personal best on ladder. He was ranked 471st in the world. He's got a handful of Grand Challenge wins, a 20-win badge as well, and his highest notable finish was a 128th place in a tournament. So definitely a guy who's on his way up and, you know, battling for 3rd place here. Not a bad place to be in, considering the other competition that still remains in Royale Masters.
Yeah, no, it's a huge moment, better than the vast majority of players could ever hope. I mean, we had 500 players in this overall in the Swiss bracket yesterday, and now we're down to our top 4. So certainly no small accomplishment, but it's so hard. You know, one of the things I talk about sometimes, Andrew, is we're both decent Clash Royale players when you talk about the general Clash Royale population. Right, like, you know, anything. I mean, my personal best is 6.6. Yours is a little bit higher than mine. Then that's better than like 95% of people who've ever played Clash Royale.
Right.
But when you compare yourself to like the actual competitive scene, you're like, oh no, 6.6. I'm garbage. That's an absolute trash personal best. and I shouldn't even touch the game anymore.
It's just so funny. Yeah, you hear like the best players in the world, they're like, oh yeah, mid-ladder, you mean mid-6K? And I'm like, oh, man, that's mid-ladder?
Well, some people say mid-ladder is 7Ks, right?
That
doesn't even count at being the mid-6Ks. So that's one of those things where there's levels to it. You know, so you look at a guy like Lord Stan, you're like, 8.1K, what are you even good? But that's amazing. That's like top 1% of Clash Royale.
Yeah.
Maybe even tighter than that one. But then you're up against 8.9K, and you're just, it's such a crazy conversation.
Someone asking who's still in right now. Well, technically, Lord Stan and Wero are both still in it. They're battling for third place. Then our first place matchup. First place going to go to either Lucas or Mohammed Light. So the consensus number 1 and 2 in the world getting their decks ready right now. I'm sure for a very fun best of 3, but still at least one more game coming your way here in our third place matchup, as Wero is up 1 with a great matchup in a double spawner deck that also had MK and Fireball to help out with those Royal Hogs out of Lord Stan. Let's hop into game number 2.
Does Lord Stan go with pigs again? Maybe not with the Goblin Cage. I mean, MK and Fireball both out. It feels like why not go to Royal Hogs again and, you know, see whether or not he's actually to play Bomb Tower. Instead, it's lava for lava here in game 2.
Yeah, lava for lava, and we'll see who has the better opening hand here. Mega Minion already doing well for Wero.
This might be a full-on mirror from what we've seen so far.
It's really looking like it, and Skeleton Dragon goes off the board there, which is really, really fortunate for Wero as well.
Miner does pick up the flying machine for Lord Stan. That's pretty big, and that's a pretty big advantage in terms of damage as well. 1472 on the right-hand tower for Wero and 2024 for Lord Stan.
And this is actually a really nice push put together here by Wero. I like the protection of the flying machine there, the miner to go on top, gets the brawler actually on the tower there, and gives the lead back to Wero. So a really, really nice kind of creating something out of nothing there.
I don't even understand how that brawler got on tower with all the guards there. I really don't understand what happened. Maybe the guard just got stuck with the miner and the brawler snuck through. It really feels like those guards should have picked that brawler up.
So Attack saying that he is currently top 800, and that's not even top ladder. He says the top ladder is probably top 200 or so. Top 300.
And mid ladder is 7K to that.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, that's upper mid ladder. We're lower mid ladder. We live in a nice 3-2 in like out in the suburbs.
Great arrows coming in here from Lord Stan to clean all that up. Gives this flying machine some tankability on the other side with the miner. 1232 to 1277. A very even game.
You and I both drive Sparkies, but it's a lease. All right. So that flying machine going nowhere. Has to get the Inferno Dragon down high to take it off the board. Pretty big push stacked up high here, though, from Lord Stan.
Yeah, we'll see what Wero has spell-wise. Arrows do come in, but arrows back out in the other direction, and it looks like Lord Stan is the one who's going to come out on top of this lava exchange.
This is a nice little minor guards push here to keep that flying machine alive. The guards do get ahead of the flying machine, so that's absolutely huge. And now just trying to pressure on. Good catches here out of Lord Stan, though.
And a few belches in from those Skelly Drags, 630 to 398, and the Flying Machine Miner push in, very, very aggressive, and a nice catch here by Wero. It does still take that minor damage on the back end.
But prevents the more important damages of that Flying Machine, so does keep that off tower. 254 is the number, and goes to the front here one more time. Nice pickup by the guards. Arrow's not there in time to get that miner on tower.
Mega Minion going to need a response. Miner comes down to catch.
Yeah, that's huge. That's absolutely huge. That's a great sequence. That really swings things in favor of Wero right now, knowing that Miner does not get an offensive sequence.
And that belch not coming in, a huge moment there for Stan, and right back on offense is Wero. High Inferno to catch this lava, but Wero should have a Miner to come in. There it is.
And again, still going Miner up front. Arrows do get there. 444 is the number.
Yeah, the arrows up high with that up high miner is the whole idea to catch those guards as well, but it does make it so that miner does not get any hits in early on.
You know, most mirror matches, Andrew, I don't really enjoy. This one, though, has been an absolute fascinating battle of these two guys trying to figure out how to get their cycles in the perfect spot to take this win. And very different play styles here. We've seen Lord Stan go behind tower over and over again. whereas Wero has been going to the front pretty much consistently.
And look at this push coming in right here from Wero. This is a great push in. That should do it. Flying Machine should get on tower here. It does. Wow, 65 HP remains, and Wero beats Lord Stan in 2. And you know, this was such a great matchup because so many times with Lava Mirror matches, it's all about starting hand, and the game is usually decided in the first minute and a half or so because one tower goes down. That was beautiful back and forth.
That was insane. That was absolutely insane. And a big part of that insanity overall was that last arrows there by Lord Stan. You know, that's one of those things we talked about before, Andrew, is that horse to the barn syndrome that can come in at the end. And that was some horse to the barn. I think those arrows needed to stay on defense to clean things up. He made that choice, and when he made that choice, I think that might, I mean, there might have been another moment, but that felt like the moment when this ended up being thrown.
Well, you talk about the elixir that he spent on that miner plus flying machine push that he got basically nothing out of, and that turned into a decent counter push from Wero. That's the moment where, like you're talking about, you need to calm down, pump the brakes, maybe cycle your lava up a little bit higher so you don't have to worry about something being snuck in. But yeah, cycle that lava up a little bit higher and build another push. You have the damage lead. You have the same cards as them. You know the only way that damage is going to get on tower is with a miner, so do what Wero did, eat the miner damage, drop a mega minion that then can support your lava, and then get back on offense.
Yeah, wow. Just really, I mean, look, and really great work from Wero, who was getting caught over and over again. You know, those miners kept on getting picked up, and it's easy to get frustrated and kind of lose focus there in that moment, especially since you're in a mirror match and you feel like you're kind of in a bad rhythm and your opponent has a better rhythm and better cycle. So great way to stay dialed in and make some tough moves to get a tough, gritty win.
So Wero has locked in the #1 seed for playoffs. It sounds like he already kind of had it locked in, but now he's definitely got it locked in with his 3rd place finish over Lord Stan. Lord Stan going to finish in 4th place. Just a little bit of prize money there. But now we go on to our grand finals between Lucas X Gamer and Mohamed Light. Rich, this is going to be a blast, and what a great way to end our weekend, man.
It just, you know, I just shows you. I don't care who you are or what you say.
Yep.
People who go, matchup royale, or this is blah, this is, look, it's no skill game. Well, then why are we at yet another tournament? And yet again, it's Mo and Lucas as 1 and 2.
Yep.
It just, there's, I love to say this, there's levels to this, and these two guys are the top level right now. I love it. I can't wait to watch this match.
Same, man, and it is crazy. You know, I even saw someone earlier in the chat talking about, you know, rock, paper, scissors game of Clash Royale, matchup royale, all that stuff, pay to win. Yeah, it's all BS, dude, because like you said, there's a reason why there's these two guys that have been winning so much money this year. They're at the end of every single tournament. They're the captains of squads that are coming out in new tournaments. And then once again here at Royale Masters, they put it together. They're in the #1 and 2 spots, and we're about to hop into that great best of 3. There's a reason why, man. I agree. There are levels to this game, and drill out early from Momo.
Let's get it. Mohamed Light, top of your screen, #1 in the world. Lucas, bottom of your screen, nipping at his heels at #2. Game 1, they're on.
And that Dark Prince getting some great damage on that tower from Lucas X Gamer, hitting first here on Mo, as Mo changing lanes here with the Goblin Drill.
I'm wondering if he is running wall breakers with this drill variation. We saw the wall breakers in with the bomber in. Wow, good game call by Mo already.
Yeah, I think he sees that this is probably that rocket cycle deck that we saw before, and the ability to control with the Tesla and get the Dark Prince down to help with that drill or the Royal Delivery or the log does make this a really tough matchup for Mohamed Light.
Yeah, very, very difficult indeed. Bomber cycles to the right-hand side here as we pass the midway point of regulation, and real aggressive rocket cycle out of Lucas. He must be feeling really good to cycle rocket on a bomber that early.
Yeah, and so he's going to have to drop something. Maybe he gets back around to delivery here. No, he goes log late, and that's actually a really nice log. Bomber will get some splash damage on tower there, but when you talk about what he traded for that rocket damage, not too bad.
So far, it's been all Lucas all the way. Drill now coming into the front one more time as that Dark Prince takes a shot, and ooh, that recruit going to the back, not good for Lucas, and now just like that, it's 17:03 to 15:60 as we go into double elixir time.
And rocket cycle early here on top of that Dark Prince's shield and the Princess Tower down to 1190. And we'll see how Mohamed Light wants to punish there. Nice arrows on top of the tower and that Tesla.
Yeah, like that call there.
And nice cycle skellies, too.
Yeah, very nice with the Fire Spirit as well. Dark Prince does take care of the drill in this case, and Dark Prince was already the counter to drill before the nerf, and now with the nerf, Dark Prince an even better counter to drill, so great call out of Lucas and his team to run that in this situation.
Fireball arrows on top of that Tesla. Great play by Mohamed Light. Really, really aggressive there, but Lucas still has every answer in the book for this matchup. And honestly, Mohamed Light making a hell of a game out of this, but just really, really tough.
Yeah, it's insanely difficult. Skeletons go to the back this time, but Bomber is working on that miner on the right-hand side.
758, just a couple rockets away to 1282. Mohamed Light needs to make something happen in the next 2 cycles for Lucas.
And that rocket cycle does come in. Elixir advantage fine at the moment. The Tesla working on that left-hand side. The fireball comes in. Dark Prince not going to touch this tower. Although arrows might sneak it in. No, good Fire Spirit.
Nice last-second arrows there from Mohamed Light. And this is why even in a bad matchup, it's still fascinating to watch because he's making great plays here that is making this game so much closer than it has any business being. But I gotta say, that rocket, or excuse me, that fireball arrows combo on top of the Tesla, just knowing that interaction, knowing the HP, and being able to make Lucas always have to be ready to defend was really impressive from Mohamed Light, but just a great matchup there out of Lucas.
Yeah, GGUL played. Lucas getting game number 1, and man, the ability to know you had the defense locked and cycle those rockets early. You cycle a 6 elixir rocket on a 3 elixir bomber that early in the game, you gotta feel pretty darn good. So,
yeah,
nice win for Lucas in game 1. Again, drill. This is why I don't love drill without a secondary win condition right now. Right, and whether that be you're playing drill wall breakers or playing drill with Magic Archer, in that situation, there was a moment there where Lucas or where Mo had to go, okay, I'm getting damage from drill or from fireball or from arrows, but I'm not getting anything else that can create sustained damage on tower or significant damage the way that I want to. So pretty rough one, and that's why I don't love that these days. But again, Mo and his squad coming up with that as their number 1. Lucas just got the better of him.
Yeah, it's just kind of tough. You know, you think that Mo's probably looking for a fireball target, right? That's the whole idea with how quick that deck cycles, but the Dark Prince is there. You know, there's no way to get good value on that Dark Prince fireball.
And you know what? People in the chat pointed out that I said 3 elixir bomber when it's 2 elixir now. It's that's so funny. Yeah. So you're spending 6 on 2. You're going for a -4 trade, not even a -3 trade. Yeah, my brain still is like won't accept that bomber is 2 elixir. It's so crazy.
You know, it's only been years and years of calling bomber a 3 elixir, but
calling it 3. But still, yeah. But so that makes it even crazier though. You're willing to spend 6 on 2. Which is absolutely nuts. So
yeah, and then you saw him
Lucas
in double elixir just cycling the rocket on top of a Dark Prince with a shield. So it's like, you know, 6 for 1 at that point because the Dark Prince is still going to come across the lane. It still feels like it's a 3 elixir card with full HP and no shield there. So game number 1 going to Lucas, and you see him coming out on top with a great miner control deck there, Rocket Cycle, and, you know, on the other side of it with Mohamed Light, it really did feel like a drill cycle deck with Fireball as the other win condition, but just not able to find a good spot for it, never wanting to overspend too much, because the moment that Mohamed Light overspends with the Fireball, Lucas gets a free rocket, and that's really, really tough to put yourself in that spot.
So keep this in mind that as we go into game number 2, the only one with cards out is Lucas.
Yep.
No Tesla, no Miner, no Rocket. But much more important here are the Tesla, the Skeletons, the Log, and the Delivery all being gone. This eliminates a lot of really key matchups for Lucas. And you think about how many decks those go into.
Yeah.
Hog EQ is now out unless you're... Hog EQ's probably out because in the way you're running Hog EQ, you could run it with arrows, I guess. But no Tesla, no Log, and no Delivery, and no Skeletons, that feels like Hog EQ off the board. So makes the job for Mo and Julesy and his squad a whole lot easier at this point from deck picking.
Yeah, Lucas going to go to that 2 elixir bomber here with Mohamed Light going maybe to wall breakers. And looking more and more
He should go with a 3 elixir bomber, in my opinion, if he's going to go with one.
It's stronger.
Well, I think Lucas is going pretty heavy here, actually.
And no King Tower activation there. A weird NATO from Lucas that allows one of those bombers to, or one of those wall breakers to get on tower, and you see the oops coming out.
Yeah, I'm going to guess he didn't intend to do that. If we're going to go ahead and...
Yeah. And yeah, I guess the other positive is Windsor's pointing out they both failed their King Tower activations there.
Yeah, it could be worse.
And had he activated that King Tower, if we are seeing Graveyard out of Lucas, that could have already been a good game.
It's one of the reasons why I don't love Goblin Cage with Graveyard. Right? I understand why it's there because it gives another tank to tank for the Graveyard, but those early cycled Goblin Cages end up with King Tower activations like way too often, except for this situation here.
Yeah, and especially when your win condition is Graveyard against some of the better players in the world, it's going to become so difficult to get any damage in. Almost gets the lineup there on top of the Bomber, but the Barbed Barrel comes out and distracts the Magic Archer, Fireball cleaning it off the board.
This specific variation from Mohammed Light is probably the most popular variant of minor wall breakers out there. I think I've seen that this is the one that I've seen this and the Bats variant a lot, but I think this one has been on Morton's profile inside the game for a while.
Yeah, Morton just loves his wall breakers. He loves all the different variants of it, but the ability to turn that Magic Archer into another win condition is really, really appealing with this deck.
I'm going to see NATO on that one, on that top right-hand side.
2013 to 2017.
Graveyard in right-hand side. This time, Baby Dragon is tanking. Spears way in the back behind the clock over there, which can be kind of frustrating as a player for that placement.
Yeah, Lucas cleans them up with a nice NATO there, but then a Miner comes out to catch the Bomber to mitigate any more damage that's coming in by Mo Light. Now we see Mo Light doing his kind of signature move of cycling Teslas on his weaker tower and then going back on offense.
I wonder at the higher level if there's a proclivity towards playing a Graveyard of the left-hand lane just because of that clock covering defenses. You don't always notice them quickly.
Yeah, I mean, that definitely could be part of it. I mean, I love to hide units behind, the scoreboard, sometimes up high at the bridge.
And there comes the King Tower activation. That's going to make things real brutal now for Lucas.
Yeah, and already having trouble creating any sort of offense, and with picking up those Miners, really the best response is that Valkyrie. You see Miner going to go in as soon as that Valkyrie gets played up high, and Miner goes down low, gets on tower, wall breakers coming in here.
Lucas is still getting damage on his right-hand side despite the King Tower activation, so got to keep an eye on that one. Valk does go high here to worry about the first Magic Archer, and a nice lineup there from Mo. And it turns the Valk back to the Miner.
That was just a beautiful interaction. Doesn't even, I mean, that's like when you're living in a different stratosphere, man. You don't even think about lining up that Valkyrie to line up the Princess Tower shot. You pull the Valkyrie back so it gets aggroed on the Miner, stays back there, turns around. It's like 3 NATOs in a row, and a great lineup there from Mo, man. Wow, love to see it.
Yeah, no, that was great. I mean, look, it was a game that it looked like was already done, but doesn't mitigate a fun move there. Chuckwagon saying, Andrew Rich, do you think this dual mode was to prevent opponents from being DQ'd from using repeated card? They want more gameplay and less cheap wins? No, I think this dual mode is just a different variation because they're still going to have people potentially use repeat cards. Yeah. I think this one just creates a little bit more flexibility for the players. And I honestly do not care if a player gets DQ'd for repeating a card. I have zero, and I mean when the Rock says zero, the Rock means zero empathy on that one. Just do your job, don't repeat cards. There's no such thing as a cheap win if your professional opponent can't obey the rules. Yeah, exactly. Like if you're playing Clash Royale at the highest level, I mean that's like the same thing as in any professional sport. You can't just go out there, you can't go into a boxing match with like a rock in your glove. Right? That's just not the way it works. There's rules for a reason. And if you're going to break those rules, you're going to get punished for them. And really the only way you can get punished in this whole entire tournament is using cards that you've won with and then taking too long to build your decks. That is something that we've had to have a conversation about, just like we do at CRL. There is a time limit there for a reason. You can't just sit back forever and waste everyone's time. And that, kind of idea of having to stay on the go makes it so that those better decks that come out, those better matchups are that much more impressive because of the amount of time you have to do it in. All those factors coming into consideration and then coming out with a good matchup, it's all important to do this stuff in a good time. Yeah, so here we go into our third and final. We're all tied up 1-1. Little review here on Lucas's side. He won game number 1 with Miner, Rocket Cycle, Log, Tesla, and Delivery all out, including Dark Prince. On the other side of it, Mohamed Light now also has Miner no longer available. The big difference here is that Mo was playing Miner, Fireball, Wall Breakers, Magic Archer, Valk, NATO. So Lucas still has Tornado available, still has Fireball available, 2 big-time cards in any sort of matchups that could come up here in game number 3. So we'll see what kind of gymnastics Mo and Juicy come up with to try to outpick Lucas in game number 3.
Yeah, Mohamed Light maybe going to go to Fireball, maybe going to go to Lava Hound with arrows because he's been playing that so much lately. You know, Log is obviously still available for him. No Tesla, no Miner, like you said, though, Rich. So he's probably going to go just a little bit slower. Although I think we did see him start the day with Royal Giant, so maybe he just goes right back to that. But that RG deck usually, or I should say always, for them, you know, has Fireball in it. So we'll see if Mo actually wants to swap that out for Poison, or if he feels like that will really handicap that deck and he wants to go in a completely different direction. And then, like you were just mentioning, for Lucas, it's interesting because, you know, like we said in game number 1, you don't want to use cards that overlap in so many decks, but you already pointed out, Rich, with the cards that he used, you know, there's so much that's not available. You know, yeah, I guess you can play Bait still without Rocket. You can go Fireball. There's a version of Bait out there with that, but no Hog EQ, no, you know, Minor Guards, Lava, and then not having Dark Prince in there honestly makes it so that certain decks out there, I mean, we haven't seen any Goblin Giant Sparky, but that's less appealing without Dark Prince. So a lot of stuff out there that isn't available based off of a deck that hasn't been used a whole lot that Lucas won with in game number 1.
And as we go into this, keep in mind, we are now to a best of 1 for our weekly championship. And that's an important best of 1 because the winner takes home $2,400, the loser takes home $1,200. So right now, the number 1 and number 2 players in the world are playing one game for $1,200. That's what's happening right here on screen, just to make sure everyone understands. That's super, super fun. And of course, the one who wins will guarantee themselves a spot in the playoffs. I don't know if the one who loses here would necessarily have enough points to make those playoffs. It's not a guarantee. They have to go ahead and go and see what those numbers are. Of course, there's still the LCQ, but that number 2 player may or may not be on the bubble.
Yeah, it feels like Mohamed Light definitely wouldn't, because I think this is the first time he's actually made it through to our weekly finals or our weekly playoffs. And then, yeah, for Lucas, I think he's only made it to round 1. So, yeah, definitely a conversation that will be interesting to have at the end of the day to see who is on through or who is at the top of that leaderboard. And it is fascinating when you talk about someone like Wero, who has not even gotten in this final match, this grand finals match, is our number 1 seed as of right now. And like you said, man, best of 1 between number 1 and number 2. It doesn't get much better than this on a Sunday.
And let's making a good point here in the chat about those rankings, that CRL leaderboard is the ultimate decision maker from his perspective, and I cannot kind of agree.
Yeah.
Because that CRL leaderboard is made up both of points you get from ladder and from competitive play. So you combine those two things together, you get to be one of the best ladder players and one of the best competitive players. And, you know, we're obviously seeing that from both of these guys.
And I think it's a really important distinction to make there. You know, being a great ladder player is just not the same. It really isn't. You know, someone like Samuel Basoto, who was such a great ladder player for so long, we've seen him kind of fall by the wayside in 2021 when it's been all about ladder plus competitive. He just hasn't been able to do it in that last chance qualifier and at our finals every single month.
So here we go into our final here today, the very last game of our open qualifier. Mohamed Light and Lucas playing for the championship and $1,200 on the line for just one game.
And someone in the chat just a moment ago said Mohamed Light is going to go to Mortar Royal Hogs, and you might be right here. You love the call early on, and we see a big pile up at the river here on both sides.
The person in the chat was Mohamed Light's mom sitting next to him. Just trying to look cool. He's going to go Mortar Royal Hogs. I see it.
Upcoming analyst.
I see the 2-2 split there, you know, in that situation, that's where I love the 3-1 split with those pigs. Just force, you know, I guess he knows it's against Cage, so there's no reason to 3-1. But if you're not against 3-1 against Cage, I like the 3-1 split in that situation.
Yeah, and I'm sure Mohamed Light loved that huge amount of damage that just came in from that Musketeer behind that Royal Hog, bringing that tower down 1,000 HP on the left-hand side. And that cannon cart does connect, man. That is a huge misstep in interaction, and just like that, our grand finals already feel like they're sewn up, and you can see Lucas very upset with that snowball.
Yeah, he tried to spend as little as possible on getting that cannon cart off the board, and, you know, you get what you pay for, is the best way to put it.
Yeah, exactly. And this Knight, plus Mega Minion, plus Musketeer are going to be a very, very easy defense as we go into double Elixir here, and now Lucas kind of just swinging for the fences. And Poison.
And does snowball the Muskie for a second there. I thought Lucas was going to let that Muskie go and try to double down. Instead, does keep it off the tower. About 1 Elixir advantage right now for the Brazilian.
And I just don't know how on earth he can play through this. Now, he can even graveyard up high if he needs to, but he has such great single-target DPS and 2 tanks that it's not really a necessity, because also on the other side of it with Lucas, he doesn't have that same power in DPS.
And this is where you see him just go full out for the graveyard because he has no time, but not going to happen. You let one cannon cart sneak on through, and that's going to be a real problem. Although cannon cart now sneaks through for Lucas. Will it stay on the board long enough? No, it will not. Mo nearly returns the favor with the cannon cart. Instead, He does take the win and will be your Week 3 qualifier champion.
Yep, that's our number 2 and number 1 in the world going head-to-head, getting a little bit of practice for our World Finals. But Mohamed Light, the number 1 ranked player, stays at the top here in a great best of 3 against Lucas X Gamer. And that cannon cart, just doing that snowball dirty by Lucas, connects for an early sign of a Mohamed Light win.
Yeah, very, very nice work for Mo. And, you know, he's had a couple of late tournament stumbles lately. Of course, he made it to top 2 at the Queso Cup, but Air Server seemed to have his number there. And everyone takes the chance whenever they can. If a player loses one game or one BO3, they go, washed.
Yeah.
Well, in case you need a reminder, there's a reason Mo's number 1 on the standings right now with a nice win there over number 2.
And someone just said that was a $1,200 missed snowball right there, or a ineffective snowball. So, it definitely hurts when you talk about that from Lucas X Gamer. And it was, I mean, honestly, probably about a half a second that he needed longer for that cannon cart to go off of its wheels.
Yeah, that was a rough moment there. Lucas pretty upset about that one. We'll be keeping an eye on Twitter to see what sort of antics there are post game on this one. But we're going to be getting our final qualifier standings fairly soon. Of course, our results from today and what the point standings are going into our championship. But there you have for today our number 1, Mohamed Light taking the championship, Lucas in second place, and Wero in third place on this weekend.
Yeah, great stuff from all these guys. Assad, Neverable, Haciel, Air Surfer, Awesome MK, Lord Stan, BBB8, Seahawk, Legend Gamer, Ian, Beneficious, and Furkan. Great job to all of you guys, not ending in the top 3. But like you just said, man, Mohamed Light, CMG, Lucas, and Wero rounding out that top 3. And honestly, when we got into our semifinals and saw the 4 people that were remaining, it did feel like that would be number 1, 2, and 3. It was just about where they fell. And honestly, they went by the numbers, right?
Yeah. Oh, just exactly what you would think, right? You look at this lineup for today. The only thing that was maybe the outstanding moment here is, I would say, Air Surfer going out so early.
Yep.
Right? But even then, it would have been Air Surfer having to meet up with Mo very, very early in this one. They would have met up in the quarterfinals. So that's maybe the only big surprise here. In the end, Mo number 1, Lucas number 2, Wero number 3, about how you draw it up.
So we are through our first 3 weeks of competition here at Royale Masters, but there's still 2 weeks left, and one of them you can be involved with. That's right. Anyone in the world can compete in our last, technically, we'll just call it the last chance qualifier. It's called that for a reason, but it's still open. Anyone can join up, and you can still find yourself at our playoffs. So we're going to take a week-long break, and then Rich and Eric will be back for your LCQ and your playoffs. I will be taking, I will be gone for the rest of that, which I'm totally bummed about missing, but I am so glad that I was able to do these first 3 weeks. It's been such a great competition, and a big shout out to Royale Masters, and of course, Tasty Bacon, who has been our producer, and he's actually the guy that found you and me to cast another great event together, man.
Yeah, a whole lot of fun here. And, of course, we'll be back together again next weekend for the Clash Royale League Last Chance qualifiers. And then, as Andrew said, we'll be back the weekend following. I'll be back here with Eric Benamou, EB7 World Champion Coach for Team Liquid, to cast out the remainder of this Royale Masters tournament. Again, 2 weeks from this weekend. So not next weekend, the weekend after. You can qualify and, of course, make a play for that $10,000 championship. And we should, in a couple of minutes here, have the standings for so far for who has actually qualified so far for that $10,000 championship. And, I think we have a few names in mind. We know Wero's going to be there. We know Mo's going to be there. We know Ian's going to be there. Pretty sure Legolas is going to be there as well, but there's a lot more other spots to be decided when we get those points in.
I know, and that's the thing that, you and I were talking about. What we love so much about this format is that any champion of the week can get on through the playoffs, and I really do think that's fair. I think that's how it should go, even if it's the third week, even if you didn't even play in Royale Masters before, which Mohamed Light did. He just wasn't as successful as he was this week. He does get to go through to our playoffs. It's just about the rest of those players and where they fall. Legolas should still be up there. Our week 2 champion, who's escaping me right now. I can't remember who it was in week 2 that came out on top. It was Ian. I think it was Ian actually that won week 2. And then, here we go. Mohamed Light in week 3. We'll see if Lucas X Gamer's in that top 8 or not.
Yeah, well, he'll have to fight his way through. And of course, if he's not in the top 8, I wouldn't be surprised to see him again here in that last chance qualifier, because Lucas does have that fire, and that's the big thing, right? We talk about how grindy, how brutal this schedule can be for Clash Royale, and there's been so many different variations of how brutal that is. But this is one of those ones where you have Lucas and Mo both peaking. They've both been peaking this year. The question is, how do you get that peak organized so it goes at the exact right time? Well, at least for the moment, they're on the right track. The question is, you just got to maintain that fire for about another 6 weeks or so.
Yeah, and talk about maintaining it all year long, because these guys have been firing hard since the beginning of the season at CRL, our very first monthly finals. And right now we have a 3-way tie for 3rd and 4th place. So the producers kind of crunching the numbers right now to figure out who's going to be in that spot, which makes that last chance qualifier that much more important for everyone else out there in the world. You can see how close we are in the numbers. Might as well secure your spot in playoffs.
Yeah, so we'll get those very, very soon here. And taking a look at some people in the chat here, Romy calling Momo the GOAT. And yeah, I think that's he certainly has an argument for it. Of course, there'll be a few former world champions who are going to be at that world championship this December to maybe try to take that away. If we talk about it, if Elsiop can win the world championship, if Ruben can win the championship, those would be 2 guys who could be 2-time world champions.
Yeah.
Right? So you look at that and you go, hey, maybe if one of those guys becomes 2-time world champions on top of their resume all over, that might be enough to be considered the greatest of all time.
Lucas X Gamer saying, thanks, guys. Great casting. Hey, thanks for you, man. Great watching your matches and great job on 2nd place. Let's take a look at that leaderboard as the numbers have been crunched, and we at least know that Wero should be on top. Look at that. Wero on top. Lucas right behind. Another CMG player, Ian, right behind him. Legolas and Mohamed Light tied at 15. CMG Jonah. 3 CMG players in our top 8 there. Bag still in the top 8 with 10 points, as is Adriel. So still a lot of really, really close competition out there. And as you can see, like we were just telling you, 3rd, 4th, and 5th place, all at 15. So,
yeah, that's
very tightly contested here.
Pretty crazy, and I'm going to go ahead and say this out loud for the booth. I don't know how many players actually qualify from the LCQ to make it in to join these guys in our 4. So 4 more players will qualify. So 4 players who will be at the bottom of the rung to work their way up. So we'll get 4 more. That's going to be next, or 2 weekends from now, right here, same place, same time. So if you haven't yet, it's command Discord in the chat. That's !Discord. And you can find out how to register for that LCQ and join that insane roster for our playoffs.
That's right. And go follow Royale Masters on all the social medias. Go follow them on Twitter. And Rich just said, go find them on Discord. That way you can join up on that last chance qualifier competition. We'll be back in 2 weeks, same time, same place. Well, I won't be back. You will be back. And so a big shout out to all you guys joining us in the chat. It's been a blast casting these matches with you guys. And I cannot wait to see who comes out on top as the inaugural, there we go, Royale Masters champion here in 2021.
It's been a whole lot of fun, guys. See you again soon. And for Andrew, who you'll see next weekend, for myself, for Tasty, for everyone here, it's been a whole lot of great hanging out with you guys. As always, be excellent to each other.
Bye.
We come alive. We come alive. What's your weakness? What's your type? Somehow I wanna know all about you. Deep connection lights a spark. You already know me when we dance in the dark. We're dreamers. We're living. We're dreamers. We're doing this in our way. We come alive in the nighttime. Something about how we dance in the moonlight. That look in your eyes, it tells me that you want me and all my loving. We come alive in the nighttime. You and I, we come alive. Oh, we come alive. We come alive. Oh, we come alive. Tell me that you want me. I can see you want me by the look in your eyes. Tell me that you want me. I can see you want me by the look in your eyes. We come alive. We come alive. We come alive in the nighttime. Something about how we dance in the moonlight. That look in your eyes, it tells me that you want me and all my loving. We come alive in the nighttime. You and I, we come alive. Oh, we come alive. Yeah, we come alive. Oh, we come alive. We come alive.
She was in love with a boy, in love with a girl, so in love with the world, so beautiful. She was in love with the night, the way the sun shines. All she needed was love to have to hold, and nobody could make her feel down. She was always smiling from ear to ear, and everybody wondered if round. Would she ever know the feeling of tears? All she said to them was live your life just like you're young again. No, don't you cry, just get back up again. 'Cause if you wanna laugh, then live it better. If you want love, then stay together. If you wanna smile, then be forever young again. Young again. She was the curious kind. To hate, she was blind. Always love on her mind. Just come on, babe. She couldn't quite figure out what fear's all about. So she put it aside all night, all day. And everybody talked about her. Said there must be something wrong with this girl. All she said to them was live your life just like you're young again. No, don't you cry, just get back up again. 'Cause if you wanna laugh, then live it better. If you want love, then stay together. If you wanna smile, then be forever young again. Young again. And nobody could make her feel down. She was always smiling from ear to ear, baby. And everybody wondered if round. Would she ever know the feeling of tears? All she said to them was live your life just like you're young again. No,